everybody. Welcome to the first Seder using our new Peace Haggadah. As you may know, we're embarking on something new today. A Seder with contributions from both Israelis and Palestinians, people from various religions, backgrounds, and localities. From California to New York in the US, Israel, Palestine, and even Australia. My name is Paul Storfer, and with me today is my wife, Sandy Lieb. I will be one of your Seder leaders today, along with my co-leader, Penny St. Penny?
Hi, everyone. I'm Penny St. I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. I'm a vodcaster, speaker, author, educator, mom, and wife. In my video podcast, Peace with Penny, I interview peace activists, primarily Israelis and Palestinians, working on peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why? The reasons are covered in my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. It's the true story of our family's vacation in Israel in 2014, when we found ourselves at war, touring incredible sacred places by day and cowering in bomb shelters at night. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The missiles landed close enough to blow up my world as I knew it. Today I devote my life to peace. I believe I found my life's purpose. With the recent violence, I believe it's more important than ever for people to hear that there actually are Israelis and Palestinians who work on peace together. Paul?
Thank you, Penny. This focus today that we're going to be looking at is new, and the Haggadah we will be using today only in its virtual form. You'll see it on the screen, but the final layout is to be completed this week. At that time, we will be providing copies to each of you, along with a list of the songs and links to the music that are within the Haggadah, so that you will be able to carry this forward with the Haggadah and with music. This inclusive Haggadah stands out in three interrelated ways. First, its collaborative efforts highlight the shared experiences of Israelis and Palestinians, Jews and Arabs, and points toward a shared and interdependent future. Second, its joint authorship signifies a collective endeavor towards a binational or multicultural solution for the region. And finally, this inclusive approach culminates in the act of reading and experiencing the Haggadah, perhaps at a Seder uniting Jews, Christians, Muslims, and others at the same table to generate conversation among diverse communities. We will not, unfortunately, have the time today as we go through this, because it's on Zoom, to try and bring everybody together in ways that we can have broad conversations. But we will hopefully provide time, and as we read through all of this Haggadah, provide the time and the ability for us all to share, to work together. And if there's something that you want to share or to add, please let me know. We will make sure that we do it in real time where we can. As an orientation, this Haggadah is different from most in several different ways. We are providing two different transliterations for the Hebrew in this Haggadah. Depending on your background, you may find one or both, or elements of both, familiar, and the other elements unfamiliar and perhaps even a bit strange. We hope that your use of this Peace Haggadah encourages you to become more comfortable in embracing the unfamiliar, but this is not why we chose to do the transliterations this way. On the left-hand side, where you see transliterations, you'll find simplified transliterations intended primarily for people who are of Ashkenazi descent. These will be labeled Transliteration A. On the right side, labeled Transliteration 1, you'll find transliterations that follow fairly standard academic conventions for most of the letters and take inspiration from the Arabic chat alphabet for 2 letters. The traditional prayers follow a set formula, which we offer here with variations. Feel free to use, as you're on mute, feel free to use whichever variant speaks to you in the moment or create your own. The traditional variant uses masculine gendered language for God. To this we add the variants in the feminine version and in language as close to general neutral as we can coax Hebrew into. This usually means somewhat abstract. The decision to include all 3 versions and the decision to keep the masculine version completely unchanged were made with a view to maximal inclusivity. You will find as we read through this, I will read the traditional version. Nina Katz will read the feminine version, and Ignat will read the gender-neutral version. We have opted for gender-neutral English translations of all three versions. This means that in English, the feminine and masculine versions will sometimes be identical. For example, when the feminine merely substitutes queenship for kingship, they will be different when the feminine version offers other epithets for the divine relationship to the world. Gender-neutral version begins with "let us bless" and uses more abstract language. Our process and goal today will be to have everyone participate in reading and singing with us. Of course, because of the limitations of Zoom, because we cannot all get together around a communal Seder table today, we will need to observe some Zoom etiquette. First and foremost, please unmute yourself only before you are about to read or speak, and remute yourself after you are done. When we sing, only a single Zoom participant should sing live. Live singing in a group on Zoom is a disaster. If you've tried it, you know that to be the case. So, for today, the singing will be done by Sandy and me when we're doing it live, but most of the music we will be doing will be coming from music that is pre-recorded. We'll be playing it so that you can hear it, and you will have links to those when we distribute the Haggadah. So, I think we're now ready to begin doing this. I'm going to share our screen for the Haggadah, and let's see if we can begin. This is the Unity is Strength Peace Haggadah. This Peace Haggadah honors the victims of violence between Israelis and Palestinians and all who seek peace. While preparing this Haggadah, we have witnessed unprecedented atrocities. Passover represents a time for freedom from all forms of bondage, be they physical, mental, or emotional. Let us open our minds and hearts to humanity, deliver the region from evil, and bring peace. I also want to start with a disclaimer. The Peace Haggadah presented here is the result of a collective effort. The views and opinions expressed in it are solely those of the individual authors. They do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any other entity, organization, or individual associated with its creation or distribution. Credit to songs are indicated in the text, and the cover art is by Amalia Sherman. And Amalia will be the person who will be putting together the Haggadah that will be sent to you from a visual standpoint. I'm going to skip over, so that we don't intimidate anyone, the table of contents. And I'm going to you will notice as we go through the Haggadah, some of it is in a lighter gray and some of it is in black. We're going to start with a guest essay written by Avram Berg. And let's start with our readers as we go around. Penny, do you want to start off? And after you will be Benji.
Sure.
One paragraph at a time as we go through.
There is a potential for Passover to undergo a transformation akin to what modernity has done for Hanukkah and Tu B'Shvat. Can Passover hold significance for the contemporary individual, embodying redemption as complete freedom? To achieve this, we must reimagine the exodus from Egypt, not merely as a national struggle against an oppressor, but as a profound clash of worldviews, the triumph of human rights over the lust for conquest and dominance inherent in every power structure. This reimagining invites us to consider contemporary struggles through a similar lens, such as the Palestinian liberation struggle. This movement at its core asserts the right to self-determination, land, and sovereignty as it challenges systems of control and occupation. By drawing parallels between the ancient quest for freedom and modern human rights struggles, we can enrich our understanding of Passover as a universal symbol of liberation from oppression that resonates with the ongoing fight for dignity and rights for all people, including Palestinians.
From this perspective, the Exodus is a universal call, resonating from ancient times to the present day, that could not have occurred without 5 courageous women: Yocheved, who defied Pharaoh's order to kill her son Moses; Shifra and Puah, the midwives who refused to carry out Pharaoh's cruel commands of killing the firstborn; Miriam, Moses' sister, who watched over him in the Nile, and Batya, Pharaoh's daughter, who rescued Moses from the river. These women grasped the essence of the struggle and spearheaded a human, national, and feminist revolution of their era. Their message was clear. If Pharaoh holds unchecked power, then true existence is denied. They asserted that only by limiting power can freedom emerge, benefiting humanity as a whole. The freedom of one is incomplete without the freedom of all. True freedom lies in inclusivity. It is about respecting the dignity of every individual. For many, too many, even in the most egalitarian societies, women are still merely the first among the others and unequaled.
Passover is, therefore, not a celebration of power, but of freedom after successfully limiting power. It commemorates the overthrow of Egyptian oppression and of exclusion, and thus it heralds the dawn of a global conscience demanding respect, dignity, and equality for all, without exception. From a national point of view, this is an extremely important message, especially in light of the new nationalistic winds blowing throughout the world today. From a Jewish point of view, it is not less important, possibly more so, as the transition from the status of slavery to the status of freedom took place not only in the land of Egypt, but also in our personal lives. What makes us slaves today? What are we slaves to? Our phone, our prejudices, our fears, our work, our ambitions? Passover is the time to question these things, to break free from the bonds that hold us back, and to embrace a renewed sense of freedom, not solely as a chapter in history, but as a personal experience.
This Peace Haggadah is a complex construct that transcends traditional boundaries. It merges spiritual and political discourse. Mixing old rituals with today's values, it brings a new angle to discuss society and connect with people from all walks of life and across denominations in Jewish communities and beyond. By transforming participatory rituals into avenues for social engagement, it invites everyone to take on roles as leaders, observers, and participants. Far more than a ceremonial script, it seeks a social change through open, inclusive discussions that address and bridge deep-rooted divides. While it diverges from the traditional Haggadah, it is also cross-denominational and may serve as a complementary text, enriching it with sections designed to provoke thoughtful conversation. Ultimately, the Peace Haggadah is dedicated to uniting people and promoting a positive social change.
Haggadah and belonging. The Haggadah captures a profound aspiration toward a goal not yet realized, symbolized by the longing expression next year in Jerusalem. This simple statement at the end of the Seder expresses persistence, portraying Passover not just as a festivity of liberation, but as preserving the notion of a geographical location, concept deeply embedded in the Jewish collective consciousness. Within the framework of the Israel-Palestine conflict, this notion, together with that of exile and redemption and the Jewish migration to Palestine in general, acquires layers of complexity and nuance.
For Jews, returning to this land signifies a homecoming to a place rich in historical, cultural, and religious importance. Yet, this homecoming significantly impacted the Arab population of Palestine. The establishment of the State of Israel has led to more displacement and wars, precipitating the deep moral and political challenges faced by Israelis, Palestinians, and the world at large. The violence, which has spanned over a century, pits two distinct groups against each other as both claim the same territory. More pointedly, it involves two groups with overlapping but profoundly different languages, economies, cultures, and histories. Clashes have been inevitable, largely because integration has never been feasible, nor has there been substantial solidarity in creating a binational state. Yet these groups must find a way to live together.
This Haggadah aims to reconcile the Jewish traditional connection to the land with the objective reality of the Palestinian people. Efforts towards peace, coexistence, and bridge building are crucial in navigating these complexities. They involve seeking a middle ground that respects the historical and emotional ties each community has to the land. The ongoing violence and the policies pursued by Israel have significantly shaped the identities and narratives of both Israelis and Palestinians, and complicated the prospects for peaceful resolution of the conflict. Acknowledging these complexities is essential to understanding the profound impact of history on the sense of belonging and identity for both Jews and Arabs in Palestine, Israel.
The symbolic props on the Seder table. Each of these items serves to fulfill the commitment to retell the story of the Exodus and engage participants in a multi-sensory experience designed to connect them personally to the narrative of slavery and liberation. The Seder table is a tableau of teaching and remembrance, inviting all to explore the human yearning for freedom.
The Seder plate is the central item on the table holding specific symbolic foods, maror, bitter herbs, symbolizing the bitterness and harshness of slavery the Israelites endured in Egypt.
Haroset, sweet dark mixture of fruits, nuts, and often grape juice or wine, representing the mortar used by the Israelite slaves to build the storehouses of Egypt.
Karpas, an herb or vegetable, often parsley, to be dipped in salt water at the beginning of the Seder, symbolizing the tears and pain of slavery and also spring.
Zerah, a shank bone or beet representing the sacrificial lamb offered in the temple in Jerusalem to commemorate the Israelites' use of the lamb's blood to mark their doorposts so that the final plague would pass over their homes.
Eitzah, a roasted egg symbolizing both the festival sacrifice brought in the days of the temple and also mourning for the destruction of the temple. In addition, the roundness of the egg represents the cycle of life and renewal.
Chazeret, often a second bitter herb, such as romaine lettuce, also representing the bitterness of slavery.
Practice of placing an orange on the Seder plate is a modern symbol of inclusivity within Judaism, emphasizing the value and necessity of embracing marginalized groups such as women and LGBTQ individuals. There is a popular but inaccurate legend that this practice originated from a man's derogatory remark to Susanna Heschel, a well-known feminist, Jewish studies scholar and daughter of the famous rabbi and civil rights activist Abraham Joshua Heschel.
According to the legend, the men claimed that a woman's presence on the bima, the platform in the synagogue from which services are led, was as appropriate as an orange on the Seder plate. In truth, Heschel was inspired by a story by Shifra Freewoman, whose author name was Susan Fielding, titled A Crust of Bread at the Seder Table, which portrays a young Jewish lesbian who, after being dismissed, told by her Hasidic Rebbe that lesbians belong in Judaism as much as chametz, leavened bread, which is forbidden during Passover, belongs at the Seder table, places a crust of bread on her Seder plate in defiance. Freewoman's fictional account was featured in the Oberlin Haggadah. However, at the Oberlin Seder, the students innovated by designing a space on the Seder plate for makom, a term meaning space and also one of the names for God, as a gesture of inclusion for all who felt excluded, linking this act to the divine. A few years later, during a visit to Oberlin, Heschel encountered the story in the Oberlin Haggadah, but mistakenly thought that the students had placed a crust of bread on the Seder table. Uncomfortable with this gesture, since bread is chametz and not allowed to be on Passover table, Heschel introduced the orange on the Seder plate as a new symbol of solidarity and acceptance.
The addition of the olive to this Seder plate is also relatively recent innovation, symbolizing a gesture of solidarity with the Palestinian people. Initiated by the writer-poet Elliot Bat Tzedek in Philadelphia in 2002, this addition has grown to symbolize the broader aspirations for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The olive, emblematic of the olive trees that have been uprooted in Palestine, serves as a powerful call to remember and act towards peace.
The other props on the Seder table, 3 matzahs of humility. Matzah is unleavened bread. 3 matzot are stacked on a separate plate on the table and covered. They symbolize the haste with which the Israelites left Egypt without waiting for their bread to rise. Chametz is bread made with sourdough or yeast. Their traditional Seder presupposes the removal of chametz from the household prior to the start of the holiday.
Matzah is known as the bread of affliction or the bread of poverty. The ambiguity in the meaning stems not only from the Hebrew Aramaic term lechem zoni, which has both connotations, but also from it symbolizing freedom in the Seder ritual. The ambiguity is resolved through understanding that the Seder is not simply a celebration, but also an introspective exercise. Chametz is traditionally understood as symbolic of ego, haughtiness, and selfishness.
4 cups of freedom. The participants drink the fruit of the vine 4 times at the Seder, and traditionally they drink a full cup each time. Each cup represents a line from Exodus 6:6-7, expressing freedom. I will liberate you from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will deliver you from bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you to me for a people, and I will be your God. For the purposes of this Haggadah, liberation from slavery is represented by the cup of liberation. Deliverance from oppression is represented by the cup of deliverance. Redemption through intervention is represented by the cup of redemption. The establishment of a new relationship is represented by the cup of covenant.
Cup of Eliyahu. Elijah the prophet is said to visit every Jewish home during the Seder, symbolizing the hope for redemption and the coming of the Messiah. The opening of the door for Elijah during the Seder is a ritual act that expresses faith in God's future redemption of the Jewish people. This tradition is rooted in the Jewish belief that Elijah will resolve all doubts and herald the arrival of the Messiah. It expresses optimism for a future era of peace and divine justice and symbolizes hope for a better world. Notably, in the Mishnah, Elijah is known as the peacemaker, Idiot 8:7.
Cup of Miriam. The Cup of Miriam was introduced to celebrate and recognize the pivotal role of women, such as Miriam, in Jewish history. It has become a contemporary feature at many Passover Seder tables. This edition drew inspiration from the legend of Miriam's well, a miraculous water source that, according to Jewish lore, God granted because of Miriam's virtuousness. Legend says that it accompanied the Israelites throughout their 40-year wanderings in the desert. Miriam's cup, filled with water, serves not only as a symbol of Miriam's contribution to the Passover story of liberation, but also represents the essential life-giving role of water. Thus, it underscores themes of sustenance, purification, and renewal.
Right now, we're going to go through, we're going to do the candle lighting ceremony. And I've asked Sandy, because she does it in our house, to do the blessing over the candle.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to kindle the festival lights.
Thank you. We're now going to sing a song, Hinei Ma Tov. Hinei Ma Tov is a song about bringing people together and frequently used at gatherings, and one that we feel we have felt very much personally. So we will sing this. This is a version written by Todd Herzog, and you have some information up there with it. I cannot give you all of the words on one page, but we got a close piece as we go through. Hinei ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tovu manayim, how beautiful it is to be here, feeling like we belong, on and on, just like sisters and brothers, joined together in song. Hinei ma tovu manayim, shevet achim גם יחד, שמזכים גם יחד. Penny, you lead.
Blessing over the fruit of the grapevine. The Kiddush blessing, recited over drinking the fruit of the grapevine, introduces the cup of liberation, an important moment in setting the tone and intention of Seder night and sanctifying the space for shared humanity, responsibility, and values. I have to say that this is off script, but this entire writing of the Haggadah and this peace Seder, you learn a lot, I believe. And one of the things that I learned is that Muslim people do not drink alcohol. And I hadn't realized it. And certainly in Seders, I was very used to Manischewitz being on the table, even though I don't drink it. But in lieu of wine, certainly just as good is grape juice. And that was always my preference. And some people are very strict about it and others aren't, just like everyone. So people get to make their own decision. According to custom, participants pour drinks for one another so as to care for the needs of others rather than serving themselves. This symbolic interaction encourages a sense of unity among people from diverse backgrounds and a stronger commitment to active listening.
The traditional Kiddush may create ambiguity with its exclusionary assertion. Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and exalted us above all tongues and sanctified us with the commandments. You have lovingly given us, infinite one our God, appointed times for joy. This wording, derived from various biblical texts, raises the oft-repeated and misunderstood concept of chosenness. To address these concerns and encourage unity, we introduce an alternative Kiddush from the Tosefta, dating from the 2nd century CE. This version of the Kiddush refers to love and mercy instead of chosenness.
And if we all, when muted, read this together, and you'll see this again through the Haggadah where it says read aloud. This is for everybody to share and to read aloud as we're doing. As we recite this Kiddush, we aim to embrace a more inclusive understanding of chosenness. Everybody should mute as we go through this. We believe that each person has unique talents and is chosen to contribute positively to our world. The Kiddush also mentions the idea of the covenant from the Hebrew Bible, which established rules for both God and people. In the 16th and 17th centuries, radical British thinkers used this concept to argue for the need for a system of limited government with separate powers, branches of government, and checks and balances. They wanted to limit government power in order to protect people's rights. Their ideas influenced the development of the first modern federal system in the U.S. Constitution. With this Kiddush, we aspire to build a new community based on democracy and ensuring that everyone's rights are protected.
Blessed are you, source of being, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, source of being, our God, ruler of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this occasion.
Urchat's washing of the hands. When the temple was in Jerusalem, there was a key focus on ritual purity, particularly for foods dipped in liquids due to their susceptibility to ritual impurity. The act of washing hands before dipping vegetables into salt water also takes on a playful aspect intended to pique curiosity and encourage questions, especially from children. While the typical practice is to wash hands after Kiddush before eating bread during the Seder, hands are washed after Kiddush before eating vegetables, adding a unique twist that allows every generation to impart new meaning and abstract the theme of liberation of other contexts. So now, everyone, the ritual of hand washing symbolizes purity and the importance of pure intentions. Just as water cleanses our hands, we hope it also helps to cleanse our hearts and minds of deep-seated resentments, past animosities, and prejudices. This act is a reminder of how closely linked our destinies are. It emphasizes that purifying oneself can have a positive impact on everyone around us. It's a moment of reflection and commitment to start anew in the spirit of unity and mutual understanding. Carpus, eating a green vegetable. In Greco-Roman Judea and Palestine, where the Seder was originally set, appetizers were often consumed during festive meals. This practice was part of a specific sequence in which guests would enter, take their seats on chairs, and wash one hand before being served appetizers. After enjoying these appetizers, they would then transition to the dining hall and recline on couches to partake in the main meal. Carpus is a mispronunciation of the Aramaic and Arabic word karafs, meaning celery. This confusion likely arose due to the absence of vowels in the early Hebrew script, which received vowels only after the 8th century CE. The choice of dipping for carpus varies among communities.
Because the Jewish calendar combines lunar and solar cycles, Passover consistently occurs around the time of the spring equinox. This connection to the equinox links Passover with spring and the concept of rebirth. The lush green of carpus symbolizes the regeneration characteristic of this season of growth and transformation. By partaking in the earth's bounty, we forge a deep bond with life-giving soil that has sustained generations irrespective of their origins of faith or faiths. This practice serves as a poignant acknowledgement that the soil of the land of Israel and Palestine bears the memories and legacies of many generations of both peoples and emphasizes our collective duty to treasure and safeguard it.
Read aloud. Dipping carpus in salt water during Passover symbolizes tears of suffering and underscores the significance of acknowledging our past as we embrace new beginnings. This act can also serve as an expression of compassion for those enduring hardship, such as displaced Palestinians in Gaza, Palestinians living under military occupation and in refugee camps, Israeli hostages in Gaza, Israelis displaced from the south and the north of the country, the injured, and all people who have lost dear ones. As we dip and taste their salty tears, we also partake in the fresh greenery, representing the earth that has absorbed so much blood, yet insists on giving back life.
Nerech et Adonai Eloheinu makor ha'chaim al briat pri ha'adama. Let us bless our divinity for the creation of the fruit of the earth.
This first commentary was written by Wendy. Actually, I'd love for her to begin the first two paragraphs, if she would.
Okay, and then I see the rest of the list is in the chat, so I don't know who's
Yes.
up after me. For carpus, we dip a green vegetable, such as celery or parsley, into salt water. Why would we dip the earth's vibrant produce into something so salty? Some sources connect the greens to spring renewal. Others tie the significance of these vegetables to hope. Still others link the greens to the land and what grows from it. But then why salt water? With this, we acknowledge the bitter tears our ancestors, the Israelites, shed when they were slaves in Egypt, away from their land. The greens and salt water are paired for a reason.
And so I think about all of this, about land, about rebirth and renewal, and about acknowledging pain and suffering. And then I think about Israelis and Palestinians today. To me, it is especially heartbreaking that in 3/4 of a century, this conflict between two peoples has not been resolved.
To me, it is clear. Both peoples are tied to the land. Neither is going anywhere. Each intends to stay. At the same time, whether because of terror or because of oppression, both Israelis and Palestinians have shed tears, and each has been in pain due to actions of the other.
But how often has either side acknowledged the other side's pain or taken responsibility for contributing to it? A few years ago, in a class at Hebrew University, I learned about the psychological toil incurred by Israelis and Palestinians living under this intractable conflict, and about what does it too mean for each society as a whole, as well as individuals. I must state that that just because a conflict is at present intractable does not mean it must remain unresolved. It does not mean we must give up hope. Hope, like every newly grown vegetables, can sprout even in the Middle East.
At any rate, a few studies that we read in class stood out. One in particular stressed not only the importance of empathy for the other and of taking responsibility, but also, critically, of doing it credibly. When each side feels the other side, truly sees it and hears its pain, reconciliation can take place. Without trust, this cannot happen.
This is where efforts like Seder's built around this Haggadah matter. Individual connections humanize and hopefully allow us not only to hear, but also to think about what we are hearing, to put ourselves in another's place. During the Seder, we retell what happened in order to relive it. We see events from a perspective and a time other than our own. Likewise, in this Haggadah and sharing our Seder table with each other, we are embracing the same today.
And in dipping our green vegetable born of the land into the salt water reminiscent of bitter tears, we can not only understand how important the land is to both peoples, but also feel each other's pain. If we can put ourselves into each other's place, we can find a way to want to help each other make our home here side by side. Perhaps this year, as we dip our karpas into salty water, we can jointly find a way to share our love and reverence for the land instead of sharing tears.
So we have our matzah, and I want to continue reading as we read paragraphs around.
There are 3 pieces of matzah on the table corresponding to the 3 matzot that were eaten together with the sacrificial offering at the temple on the first night of Passover, according to the Hebrew Bible, Exodus 12, Leviticus 23. The middle matzah is broken before the start of the festive meal, and the biggest broken piece is set aside to be served at the end of the meal in the section of the Seder called sasfun, meaning hidden. This piece is called afikomen, from a Greek word meaning after meal songs and entertainment, or dessert. The Seder cannot conclude until all guests have eaten a piece of the afikomen.
One of the main objectives of the Seder is to engage and teach the next generation. Teaching means engaging, and so at this point in the Seder, the leader hides the afikomen so that the youngest participants can find it right before safun. At that point, the leader will redeem it, usually by giving a present to the child who found it. It is more than a playful hide-and-seek ritual. It becomes a powerful metaphor about the importance of seeking out, understanding, and addressing suppressed narratives.
Referred to as the bread of affliction or of poverty, matzah represents the hardships of slavery in Egypt. Yet it also represents freedom. It embodies a profound dual symbolism. After the 10th and worst plague, when the Egyptians urged the Hebrews to leave so they could avoid further calamity, the Hebrews did not have time to let their bread rise, and so they took their dough with them. To commemorate this hurry, chipazon, to freedom, the Hebrew Bible mandates, 7 days shall you eat matzot, Deuteronomy 16:3, so that one day one may remember that you were a slave in Egypt, Deuteronomy 16:12.
The leaven or chametz in ordinary bread is often seen as a metaphor for ego and arrogance that can puff up a person. The absence of leavening makes matzah a symbol of humility and the shedding of arrogance. This inherent humility of matzah contrasting with the ego represented by yeast or sourdough, serves as a powerful reminder to embark on shared journeys with humility, openness, compassion, and understanding, free from the constraints of ego.
We all read together. The act of baking bread transcends boundaries, embodying a universal gesture of humanity. Together, as we break this matzah, the participants commit to a unified path leading to peace and justice. The act of breaking and hiding the matzah will culminate in the return of the afikomen
as the Seder draws to a close.
And we set aside the broken portion of matzah to remember that what seems lost may be recovered, and what seems broken may be repaired. It is a reminder that what is broken off is not really lost to us as long as we remember and search for it. So we have the matzah, and we break it, and the middle, the larger section, goes to become the afikomen. We now pour the second cup, the cup of deliverance, and one of the guidance is that we do not pour for ourselves. If we can, we have, in some cases there's only one, but if you can, you pour for somebody else.
Magid telling the story. The Judeo or Aramaic phrase, halach ma'anya, or this is the bread of affliction, at the start of the Magid section of the Passover Seder, is a thought-provoking contradiction. It invites the hungry to eat matzah, the unleavened bread of Passover, which is a symbol of both deprivation and nourishment. The paradox is in offering this bread of affliction instead of calling it bread of deliverance, as befits a celebration of freedom.
However, the Seder is also the remembrance of past hardships. Referring to matzah as the bread of affliction ensures that the struggles of slavery are not forgotten, since liberation rests on the memory of oppression. The reminder of oppression also serves as a humbling counterbalance to any potential triumphalism in the celebration of deliverance. By extending an invitation to all who are hungry, the Seder transcends its particular Jewish context, offering a universal message about the human condition, in which suffering and hope always coexist, as do oppression and liberation. The Seder also reinforces the importance of remembering or retelling. In some Mizrahi and Sephardic Seders, the leader raises the Seder plate over and taps the heads of each participant before halach ma'anya to further drive home how this collective retelling impacts each and every one of us.
That was actually done by Kim and Reggie Harris and Rabbi Jonathan Kligler. The translation: this is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and commemorate the Passover. This year we are here. Next year may we be in the land of Israel. This year we are slaves. Next year may we all be free people. And if we read aloud together. This dual nature of matzah as both bread of affliction and a symbol of liberation connects us with all who are oppressed and hungry for freedom today. We invite them to share in both the pain and the support it brings as we say, this is the bread of affliction. Come, let us share this burden together and find strength in unity.
Therefore, let us all say together.
Another one, read out loud. This is the bread of affliction. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come. This year we are in the midst of war. Next year may we be in a land of peace. Today we are in strife and battle. Next year may we live as equals in the land of Israel and Palestine. Kol dikfin, let those yearning for a new understanding come and learn. Kol ditzrich, let all in search of meaning join us. The next piece here, and you can see the background, is a song, None of Us Are Free, Solomon Burke.
1, 2, 3.
I encourage you to sing along in the chorus.
Well, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, because if you do, you can hear there are voices still calling across the years, and they're all crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us has changed. None of us are free. And there are people still in darkness, and they just can't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, then that says it's right. We got to try to feel for each other. Let our brothers know that we care. Got to get the message, send it out loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us are chained. None of us are free. Get to sing the truth we all need, just to hear and to see. None of us are free. None of us are free. Now I swear your salvation isn't too hard to find. None of us can find it on our own. We've got to join together in spirit, heart, and mind, so that every soul who's suffering will know that we're not alone. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us are chained. None of us are free.
We're coming up to the 4 questions here. We have a recording of the 4 questions as done by a young person that Penny was able to connect with from California. And Penny, you can give me the name. I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head.
It's Talia, and she's 12, and in 2 months she'll be having her bat mitzvah. She very sweetly said she would do it, and her mom just did a fabulous job and set up a Seder table. And so please play the questions.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה כולו מצה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, שאר ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. שבכל חלילה אין אנו מטבילים, אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתפי עמים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתפי עמים. שבכל חלילה אנו הולכים, בין יושבים ובין מסובים, בין יושבים ובין מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים.
And now all of us together. The Ma'anish Tanah includes references to matzah, maror, bitter herbs, dipping, and reclining, while there are other versions of the Ma'anish Tanah that mention additional symbolic actions performed on this special night. The core of the text revolves around a single rhetorical question: why is this night different from all other nights? Therefore, we should all ask, why is this particular night, this Haggadah and this Seder, different from all other nights and all other Seders? And Ignat, if you would read our fifth question.
Okay, I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to butcher it, but I'll read it. שבכל הלילות אנו מדברים על מה שיעלה על ליבנו. הלילה הזה אנו מקדשים את מחשבתנו לחזון של שלום ועתיד משותף לישראלים ופלסטינים.
And the translation?
On all other nights, we discuss whatever comes to mind. On this night, we engage in sacred redirection of our thoughts toward envisioning peace and an integrated future for Israelis and Palestinians.
Thank you. So now we'll go back to our reading together, reading paragraph by paragraph, and I think, Emmanuel, you were last, so Benji?
We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Infinite One, our God, took us out from there with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. If the Holy Blessed One had not taken our ancestors out of Egypt, then we, our children, and our children's children would have remained enslaved to Pharaoh in Egypt. Even if all of us were wise, all of us understanding, and all of us knowledgeable about the Torah, it would still be our duty to tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt, and all who elaborate on the story of the Exodus from Egypt are praiseworthy.
This passage underscores the significance of preserving and sharing the narrative of the Exodus from Egypt. It conveys several crucial themes.
The passage underscores the importance of expressing gratitude for the liberation of the Israelites from the shackles of slavery in Egypt. It acknowledges that without divine intervention, they would have remained in bondage.
Obligation to remember. It emphasizes the duty, even for those well-versed in the Torah, to recall and commemorate the Exodus story.
Praiseworthy expansion. Furthermore, tradition encourages us to delve deeper into the story of the Exodus and to expand upon its theme.
Beyond the known text and context, the central lesson here is one of liberation from oppression, which can serve as a universal message applicable to various forms of liberation, from national liberation struggles to addressing global challenges, such as climate change. It is important and appropriate to bring Palestinian liberation into focus in this context as well.
The meaning of the phrase, whoever liberates in the original Hebrew is closer to, increases or expands upon. And that's precisely what we are asked to do here. By incorporating the Palestinian narrative and quest for liberation and national self-determination alongside the ancient Israeli narrative, we expand upon the Exodus story to encompass a broader perspective on freedom and justice.
Okay, now everybody muting and read aloud together. We have been yearning for a path to peace. If a force of compassion, justice, and international solidarity did not guide us, then we, our children, and our children's children would remain entangled in this unbearable reality. Even if we are knowledgeable, even if we understand the complexities, even if we are deeply versed in the history of the laws, it remains our duty to tell the story of the struggle and yearning for a future of peace. and whoever dedicates themselves to the pursuit of solidarity is praiseworthy.
A Palestinian Odyssey by Iyad Rafidi. My name is Iyad Rafidi. As children, we were taught our generational names. Therefore, my generational name is Iyad, son of Hannah, son of Jamil, son of Slayman Rafidi. Hannah is my father. Jamil is my grandfather, and Slayman Rafidi is my great-grandfather.
As legend has it, my father's family originated from Rafidia, which is a Christian town near Nablus, and they later moved to El Bira near Ramallah. My mother's maiden name is Oda. Her family resided in Teba and had family farms, large land holdings, and businesses in Palestine. As I understand, the last of these was recently forcibly taken by settlers.
As a child, I grew up in the old city of Jerusalem, close to Bab al-Jadid, the New Gate. My early years were spent absorbing the rich history and diverse cultures of the area before I moved to Australia as a young boy. Reflecting on these memories, I will also share my perspectives on the ongoing situation and emphasize the critical need for a resolution of the conflict.
After growing up in Old Jerusalem, I find Palestine is now a distant memory of friends running across the rooftops of the interconnected buildings we lived in, where we flew our kites and played soccer with no concern as to who was Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. We were all Palestinian, and our Greek and Armenian friends saw themselves as Palestinians as well. Together, our diverse backgrounds unified us in a shared sense of community and belonging.
I remember walking through the cobblestone streets and alleyways with my friends and having a sense of ownership of our hometown. I remember walking through the crowded souk, the outdoors bazaar, and feeling mesmerized by the colors, aromatic smells, antiques, and ordered chaos of it all.
I remember eating the most beautiful combination of freshly baked, hot ka'ak al-quds, ring-shaped bread, and straw-smoked eggs early in the mornings. I remember the eggs had a unique brownish color on the surface.
I remember buying the charub carob drink from a vendor and watching in awe as he poured it with both his arms fully stretched out, one above his head and the other below his waistline. He poured it from way up high into a small cup much lower down. I can still imagine the stream of charub falling through the air into the cup, the liquid frothing with bubbles from the rush of his pouring, and every time I stood wondering how he didn't spill a drop.
I remember buying knafa, a traditional Palestinian dessert, for myself in the evening and putting the expense on my father's account. And I remember getting in trouble when my father found out. I remember minding my father's furniture shop when I was 8 while he played telfa at the coffee shop.
I remember one day I sold a chair that my father had displayed in the store window. I remember running to the coffee shop to give my father the money from the sale. My father beamed with pride, insisting that I keep the proceeds from the sale.
I remember my father walking me through the St. George Hotel, his eyes filled with pride as he showed me his artisanship in fitting out that hotel.
I remember serving as an altar boy at the church.
I remember seeing Al-Aqsa Mosque and the worshippers and tourists standing outside admiring the Golden Dome.
I remember the Wailing Wall, also known as the Western Wall, and watching the Hachams, or rabbis, with their white brim hats and curly locks crowded around the wall.
I remember being puzzled by seeing people seemingly bashing their heads against the wall and others sticking pieces of paper into the crevices in the stonework.
I remember visiting my auntie, a nun at the Russian Orthodox convent, and walking through the pine forest surrounding the convent.
I remember my parents sacrificing a baby lamb in Bethlehem when my brother healed from his sickness.
I remembered sliding down the hallways of our home when Mom hosed down the terrazzo floor in our house. I remember playing in the yard of our neighbor Costa, a Greek boy who had one short leg due to polio, and his sisters.
Bob, our other neighbor, his wife, and their German shepherd. I remember walking through the streets with my dad and all the shopkeepers saying, Marhaba Hanna, Sabah al-Khair Hanna, and feeling so proud that everyone knew my father and respected him.
I remember playing in the snow at Christmas and watching the processions during Easter. I remember all the palm branches during the procession on Palm Sunday, and I remember walking in Christ's footsteps in the Garden of Gethsemane.
I remember visiting my grandmother in Teba and walking through the olive groves. I remember running with my cousins and their friends through the hills in Teba.
I remember learning to ride mules, donkeys, and horses in Teba and watching herders tending sheep.
I remember waking up before sunrise and my grandmother making me fresh tabun bread with what she called tatli, a chili jam spread on it. I remember visiting my cousins who lived in Ramallah and playing on their farms while picking and eating beautiful, huge, sweet oranges, watermelons, and grapes.
I remember every Sunday after church going to the Muntaza and playing in the park, swimming in the natural spring pool and eating our fill of musahan, a national Palestinian dish of roasted chicken in the outdoor garden restaurant.
I remember our family traveling with my cousins and their parents, all of us crammed into a Volkswagen, traveling to visit family and friends living in Gaza, Jaffa, and Haifa.
I remember standing under waterfalls and floating in the Dead Sea. I remember visiting my uncle's factory that had huge machinery for weaving cloth.
I remember visiting another uncle who had an ice-making factory and another uncle who was importing and putting together large appliances. I remember watching the landing on the moon in black and white and telling my fantasy stories to all the family and friends of how one day I would do the same.
I remember walking to Free College in the cold of winter and my hands being so cold I couldn't write. I remember when I was a child, one of our community leaders was a family friend, a lady we knew as Miss Batata. I remember she wanted to handpick children to train as strong leaders to lead the Palestinian people out of the Zionist occupation.
These are the memories I cherish and want to keep. These are the memories that give me a longing to visit the homeland we were evicted from when I was only 9 years old. I remember a burning missile being thrown through our window. We all ran and huddled in a corner. I remember my father calmly reassuring us that it was just a piece of wood on fire and urging us not to be afraid as he explained that they were attempting to scare us into leaving our home.
I remember my mother telling me how her father was killed in cold blood during the 1948 Nakba, the catastrophe. I recall attending my uncle's solemn funeral after he was tragically stoned to death by settlers who forcibly seized his stone quarry.
I remember my fear when I stood at the top of the hill looking down, seeing IDF tanks and troop carriers in the valleys of Teba. I remember watching my father's face on a television screen. I remember his face full of defiance and fear as he stood protecting the equipment in his shop while IDF soldiers pointed their guns at him. They wanted to seize his equipment because he refused to pay a tax when the purpose of that tax was to fund the Israeli war.
I remember our family friend Musa, a Palestinian Jew, and his family visiting our house and convincing my mother and father to leave our home for another land because they feared that my father would be targeted and killed by the IDF.
I remember them discussing us emigrating to the USA, Canada, or Australia.
I remember my father's heartbreak when we decided to leave for Australia. I remember my family visiting the Australian embassy with Musa.
I remember kissing every wall in our house before we left. I remember my father's heartbreak when he saw all the red roofs as the airplane landed in Sydney.
I remember my father did not want to leave the Sydney airport. I remember him wanting to go back home as soon as we landed.
I remember my father and mother working 2 shifts to keep us alive and fed in Australia. I remember working in a pharmacy from the age of 11 to help my parents make ends meet.
I remember my father falling off a roof and breaking his back in 7 places. I remember being bullied at school for being different from the other white people.
I remember 5 or 6 children would start punching me. I remember forcing myself to remain standing firm while being hit, because I knew if I fell, they would start kicking me while I was on the ground.
I remember leaving school early and joining the workforce because I didn't fit in. I am now 61, a grandfather of 6, and my mother is a great-grandmother of more than 20 grandchildren.
We have lived in Australia for 53 years, and my experience dates to some 20 years after the beginning of the ongoing Nakba.
My reflections bring to mind an imaginary comparison between the Nakba and the Babylonian exile of the Judaic tribes, Oda, from Judah, in Hebrew and Palestinian Arabic, to the land of Babylon. The tribes of Judah endured a 70-year exile in Babylon, where many of the returnees were third-generation descendants born in exile.
On their return, they brought back with them a new language, Aramaic, and the seeds of a new religion. I can imagine the parents of the exiles harking back to their lives on their farms in Judea, as my father did, and the children not fitting into their new communities and being bullied.
Diane.
I can imagine the grandchildren of the exiles forgetting their mother tongue and learning a new culture. I can imagine the grandchildren returning as young adults like Ezra, bringing a new culture and language to the land of Palestine.
It took several hundred years, but under Hasmonean rule, the entire land took on the Aramaic language, and the new religion of Judaism was built from the memories of distant lands.
I have little doubt that those that didn't go into exile saw the returnees as invaders bringing a foreign culture, language, and religion to their land.
Thank you all. That was certainly for us here very moving and difficult to read. Okay, we're not going to do the Hebrew, but we will read the translation as we go through and do this. So Dwight, if you would start the reading.
The Torah speaks of 4 children, one wise, one rebellious, one simple, and one who does not know how to ask. What does the wise one say? What are the testimonies, the statutes, and the laws that the eternal our God has commanded you? You shall instruct this child in the laws of Passover. You must teach them. One may not conclude until after the Paschal lamb is consumed.
What does the rebellious one say? What is this service to you? To you and not to them. Since they exclude themselves from the community, they have denied a fundamental. Therefore you shall blunt their teeth and say to them, because of this, the Infinite acted for me when I went out of Egypt.
What does the simple one say? What is this? You shall say to them, with a strong hand the liberator brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slaves. And for the one who does not know how to ask, you must open the conversation as it is said. You shall tell your child on that day, it is because of this that the presence did this for me when I went out of Egypt.
We're going to go to a song here. This is a song that was known for quite a long time in English and Hebrew. When at Seeds of Peace, we were notified, and we now have it in 3 languages, English, Hebrew, and Arabic.
Can't you hear the music playing in the city square? Come where all our friends will find us with the dancers there. Join the celebration. There'll be people there from every nation. Dawn will find us laughing in the sunlight, dancing in the city square. Come and dance the Hora dance, Badaka. Sing with me, we'll dance together. When the band is playing, my heart saying, Tzena, can't you hear the music playing in the city square? Tzena, come where all our friends will find us with the dancers there. Tzena, on the celebration of the daily people in every nation. Anna, standing in the sunlight, dancing in the city square. Tzena, come on the people of the daily
Now we will all read aloud together. The Haggadah acknowledges the Jewish people's complex origins, including their roots outside of traditional Canaan, Israel-Palestine. It highlights Abraham's call from Ur Kasdim, present-day Kuwait, and his migration to Canaan. The descent of his descendants into Egypt due to famine leads to the Exodus story. This narrative in the Haggadah emphasizes migration and identity formation in new lands and underlines the Jewish people's historical roots both within and beyond Canaan's borders. It reflects the continual shaping of collective identity and connection to the land through a history of movement and resettlement. To this, we should add acknowledgement of recent major Jewish migrations and resettlement in Israel-Palestine. Penny, you to lead.
Okay, so Mitch.
Sure. In the beginning, our ancestors were idolaters. Now, God has called us to sacred service. Terach, the father of Abraham, and Nahor lived beyond the river and served other gods.
I took your father Abraham from beyond the river, led him throughout the land of Canaan, multiplied his descendants, and gave him Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave the hill country of Seir as his possession. Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt.
Blessed is Israel's promise keeper. Blessed is the one. For the Holy Blessed One calculated the end and performed as God said to our father Abraham at the covenant between the pieces. As it is said, and the one said to Abraham, know for certain that your offspring will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there. And they will be oppressed for 400 years, for I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. Genesis 15, 13 and 14.
The Bible describes a special arrangement between God and Abraham known as the, and then please, can you flip the page?
The covenant between the pieces, which the Midrash and early biblical commentary describes.
In the Hebrew Bible, Esau's association with Mount Seir, today's Al-Shara Mountains in Jordan, contrasts with the land of Canaan promised to Abraham's descendants through Isaac. The narrative then shifts to Joseph and his brothers, highlighting the theme of exile, galut, as central to Jewish identity. Exile is a concept that traces back to Abraham. This theme of exile also extends to the matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah, all of whom emigrated to the land, and some of whom experienced multiple displacements. Genesis explores these themes of displacement, exile, and migration. Seems to suggest that such experiences are crucial for personal growth, spiritual development, and the formation of a collective identity. We can interpret it to mean that leaving one's comfort zone can lead to significant insights and transformations. At the conclusion of the Egyptian exile, the ancient Hebrews received the Torah in the Sinai wilderness. The exile was pivotal to solidifying their unique identity, intertwining the concepts of homeland and exile as key to Jewish self-understanding.
The Hebrew Bible presents a nuanced view of foreigners. The text acknowledges common biases while also recognizing that many people are, or at some point become, members of vulnerable groups, including immigrants, the poor, orphans, and widows. The Torah offers explicit protections to members of all of these groups. The experience of Jews as a minority, often seen as outsiders even after generations, also reflects a historical pattern of some communities being affected more strongly than others by national and international events. The situation between Israel and Palestine serves as a prime example, where developments affect not only those directly involved, but also Jews, Palestinians, Muslims, and Arabs living elsewhere.
As having occurred on the first day of Passover. This link is not surprising since the covenant is closely associated with themes of slavery and freedom. Later, this covenant is used faithful of repeated word. I'm the creator who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, to set conditions or commandments on the Hebrews. Ultimately, this covenant is resulted in a tribal confederation that eventually formed a unified kingdom or a federation under a single monarchy in Jerusalem. This kingdom later divided into two federations: the northern kingdom of Israel, made up of 10 tribes, and the southern kingdom consisting of Judah and Benjamin. The northern kingdom was destroyed in 722 BCE. Despite being conquered and exiled in 586 BCE, Jews maintained their aspirations for a federal polity through the prophecies of Ezekiel during the Babylonian exile and beyond.
In addressing the Israel-Palestine situation, federalism is a fair and realistic solution, focusing on a balanced division and shared governance. Federalism may involve either two states forming a federation with a shared central authority to which they both delegate some power while retaining autonomy, or a single state decentralized into autonomous regions. Either approach could work in this current context. This system, a balance between centralization and decentralization, requires consensus and respect for each group's cultural, geographical, or communal identities. Central to this is equality, ensuring collective self-determination, non-discrimination, fair land rights, and equitable solutions, including the right of return or compensation. By countering discrimination and promoting democracy and justice, federalism can reduce extremism and offer a path to peaceful existence where Israelis and Palestinians respect their unique identities within a unified political framework.
In the Haggadah, the recitation of the Passover story begins with the same text that Israelites recited when they brought their first fruits to the temple, a passage about Laban's intent against Jacob. Is our harvest here the story or liberation itself?
Go and learn what Laban the Aramean sought to do to our father Jacob. Pharaoh decreed only against the male, but Laban sought to uproot everything. As it is said, my father was a wandering Aramean, and Aramean sought to destroy my father. He went down to Egypt and lived there, few in number, and there he became a great, mighty, and populous nation.
The ambiguity in meaning of the phrase Arameo Vedavi is significant. The Hebrew leaves it unclear whether the text is saying that Jacob was an Aramean or was facing destruction from an Aramean. The people whom we fear may seek our destruction are generally the same as ourselves in many ways. Recognizing this is essential.
This declaration is not a ritualistic recounting. It's an act of remembering and declaring. We find the Hebrew root ngd corresponding to in Arabic in both the word Haggadah, the telling, and the word for declaring. This underscores the importance of this dual process of remembrance and proclamation. In Arabic, the same root may mean to become apparent. Applying this concept to the current context suggests that the challenges faced by Israelis and Palestinians today, the challenge of finding a way to coexist peacefully in the same land, must also be approached with this spirit of remembering and declaring so that solutions can become apparent.
1. Remembering involves an acknowledgement of the history, struggles, and narratives of both communities. This means not just recalling past events, but also understanding their impacts on shaping present attitudes, fears, and hopes among both Israelis and Palestinians. 2. Declaring goes beyond mere acknowledgement. It means actively voicing our commitment to seek solutions, proclaiming a dedication to peace, and openly discussing ways to achieve mutual respect.
Just as the Haggadah guides its participants through historical reflection and communal affirmation, so too must we engage in a process of collective remembrance and declaration. In essence, it's about learning from the past to inform and guide present and future actions towards peace.
My father was a wandering Aramean, and he went down into Egypt and lived there, few in number. There he became a great, mighty, and populous nation. The Egyptians treated us badly, afflicted us, and imposed hard labor upon us. We cried to the Eternal, the God of our ancestors, and the Eternal heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our oppression. The Eternal brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, fearsomely and with signs and wonders.
Nina.
What is the meaning of mighty hand, outstretched arm, fearsomely with signs and wonders? Why was Pharaoh so reluctant to release the slaves? It required 10 devastating plagues and a catastrophic event at the Red Sea to finally liberate them. This story teaches us about the challenges of relinquishing sovereignty, especially when it serves to maintain dominance over others.
The traditional Haggadah goes through the plagues in relative detail to underscore the immense power of God. However, for our purposes, the plagues highlight the extreme measures Pharaoh took to deny liberty to the slaves. It is not by accident that in this recitation of the plagues, Moses is conspicuously absent. Moses plays a key role in the story of the Exodus, but he is almost entirely absent in the Haggadah. This omission underscores the confrontation between divine will and human stubbornness and the effort required to dismantle injustice.
In the Midrash, God rebukes the angels when they rejoice over the Egyptians drowning at the Red Sea. My creations are drowning in the sea, and you wish to sing? This teaches us a vital lesson in empathy and the recognition of the humanity of all parties in a conflict, even those we perceive as our adversaries. In the path toward reconciliation, we must remember the cost of human suffering and strive for solutions that uphold the dignity and sanctity of all lives involved. Do not rejoice in the downfall of your enemy.
Now, playing another song, this is Justice, Justice by Doug Kotler.
Justice, justice, I will pursue you. I will never cease to do what's right. The more there's justice, the more there will be peace. We know what it's like to be without a home. We know what it's like to wander years alone. And I must break the chains that bind the slave and make oppression disappear. And I must help a stranger find a bed, and I will share my bread. So justice, justice, I will pursue you. I will never cease to do what's right. The more there's justice, the more there will be peace. In the beggar's eye, sparks of heaven shine. In the captive's cry, the voice of the divine. And I must break the chains that bind the slave and make oppression disappear. And I must help a stranger find a bed, and I will share my bread.
In the Bible, blood, fire, and pillar of smoke are often used as prophetic symbols. For instance, in the book of Joel, there's a prophecy about the end of days. And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. End quote. This is typically interpreted as a representation of great turmoil and divine intervention or the judgment that comes upon people who commit injustice. Fire and blood represent purification, while smoke symbolizes the ascension of prayers, such as the sacrifice at the temple. Each element, blood, fire, and smoke, also reflects a different aspect of the violence between Israelis and Palestinians.
Blood is the suffering and loss in the violence. It serves as a reminder of the human cost, the pain, and the sacrifices endured by individuals and families. Naming it, we can acknowledge the shared experience of suffering.
Fire is the destructive nature of the conflict, yet fire also signifies the possibility of burning away old resentments and starting anew with mutual understanding and respect.
Smoke indicates the ongoing nature of the contention, but like smoke that eventually clears, there's hope for a resolution in peace characterized by self-determination, mutual respect, and the right to live with dignity and freedom.
Okay, everybody mute and read together. The act of spilling out some grape juice or wine for each of the 10 plagues by dipping your pinky into the glass and removing a drop onto a napkin is a gesture of sorrow for the suffering of the Egyptians in the 10 plagues. This old practice underscores a profound lesson in compassion and humanity. It acknowledges that freedom or joy gained at the expense of another's suffering is incomplete. This ancient tradition teaches that even in victory over oppression, there is no room for rejoicing in the suffering of the oppressor. Instead, we must choose empathy and value every human life. So what we would do now is to take your glass of wine, and you take from your wine, you dip your pinky into it, and you drop it onto a napkin, not onto plates. And remember not to lick your fingers afterwards. You don't want to consume any plagues. So you take a drop, and we will go through here. You see at the bottom, we start with, we're going to do it in the English. And you see the first 5 in the English there. First 5 all together, you say blood,
blood,
frogs, lice, wild animals, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, slaying of the firstborn. Okay, and now we will also go on and once more remove a drop of wine or grape juice from our glasses for each of these modern plagues. Hunger, war, terrorism, greed, bigotry, injustice, poverty, destruction of the earth, indifference to suffering, and hatred. A graphic reminder for all of us. Does anyone want to talk about any other modern plagues that affect us today?
I think a lot of the isms and religions that emphasize how different, too much how different we are from other people, and not have a and not have a kind of universalism not have what we just showed, where we're this sympathy even for the people who are oppressing us. And I think a sense of a garrison mentality, and what we need to do is build higher walls and have more guns and more bombs and protect ourselves from those people, and a lack of understanding that in a sense everyone is us. Thank you.
Lust for popularity.
Yes.
It is fitting for us to continue our plague ritual by commemorating the many massacres that have marred Israeli-Palestinian history. If we were to remove a drop of our grape juice or wine for every massacre, we would empty our cups completely. Tonight, we will name many of the larger massacres, but not all. The numbers killed are all human beings, including Palestinians and Israelis. The question is not who killed whom, but how to acknowledge, grieve, and make the killing stop. Let us start by removing an extra drop from our glasses to acknowledge that more massacres may have been committed since this Haggadah was written. And then let's remove one more drop for each of the years of massacres.
We would all just look at these, and Dwight, if you would just read the year and the city.
1921, Jaffa. 1929, Hebron. 1936, widespread. 1947, Haifa. 1948, Balad al-Shakaya, Haifa. 1953, Kibya. 1956, Kafr Qasim. 1974, Ma'alot. 1978, Coastal Highway near Tel Aviv. 1994, Cave of the Patriarchs, Hebron. 2002, Netanya. 2008, Gaza. 2012, Gaza. 2014, West Bank and Gaza. 2018, Gaza border. 2021, Gaza. 2022, Gaza. 2023, Southern Israel, particularly at Reim Music Festival in Be'eri Sederot, Kafr Aza, Ner Oz, Netiv Ha'asara, Holit, Nahal Oz. 2023 through 2024, Gaza, particularly in Gaza City, Khan Yunis, Zaytun, the Magazi refugee camp, the Nuzarit refugee camp, and Rafah.
We need to restrain ourselves from launching into justifications for any of this. Instead, we need to listen to the stories of the survivors, listen deeply to both narratives, learn to grieve all the losses, and work together for peace with inclusion.
Okay.
It's more important to listen well to the different narratives than to insist on a single one. We come from traditions with multiple interpretations, multiple ways of counting and recounting. We don't all have to agree, but we have to learn to listen to each other, to attend to each other's words and experiences, and to try to be as generous as we can in listening.
This has to include listening to what we'd rather not hear, listening to stories of brutality committed by people we want to believe are fundamentally decent, thinking about why people engage in brutality and what might induce them to stop, listening to stories of people who insist on the entire land, not just a part of it, listening to the words of people who believe that their well-being depends on something we think is antithetical to peace.
Listening deeply, we need to be willing to shake up the paradigms. We need a lasting peace, a peace that brings equality, security, and inclusion, a peace that people on both sides can accept. Peace with equality and inclusion will be more stable and therefore bring more security than peace with lasting inequality and exclusion, which risks feeling like a temporary solution until we can get something better.
To get to a solution that can last, we need to listen to multiple narratives, and we need to stop ruling out options. The two-state paradigm has been pursued for a long time, but it has profound problems. If negotiators succeed in reaching an agreement on a two-state basis, dayenu, it will have to be enough for us. We'll need to welcome it and find ways to address the problems or learn to live with them. But the negotiators are far more likely to succeed if they look at more creative solutions, such as federation plans, confederation plans, and mixed federation-confederation plans.
Ignat?
מה נשתנה הפתרון הזה מכל הפתרונות? How is this plan different from all other plans? A federation-confederation plan acknowledges the deep ties that Palestinians and Israelis share with the entire land and allow all to enjoy access to the entire land. It acknowledges that both Palestinians and Israelis want to be able to live on both sides of the Green Line, and it can allow them to do so. In particular, the three-state solution, consisting of Palestine, Israel, and a federation, all under a shared confederation, would create Palestinian federal settlements on the Israeli side of the Green Line and pair them with Israeli Federation settlements on the Palestinian side of the Green Line in a sister settlement program. That pairing will include both equity and partnership, including ongoing dialogue groups. This doesn't mean that every Israeli settlement will remain, but there would be equality between the two sets of settlements, all of which would become federal. And that, in turn, might change the motivation as both sides negotiate about how many should remain. Both Palestinians and Jews can enjoy the right of return. This does not have to threaten the demographic balance of any of the states. If these three states are co-territorial, they all share the entire land. So there is no longer a question of who owns any part of it. They all do. The entire land belongs to all three states and all their citizens. And they delegate administration of each particular area to one of the three, and the other two states maintain standing to challenge any discrimination or injustice that occurs. Because all three own the entire land, the federal settlements don't have to be contiguous, and they likely won't be. All the roads will be shared. Water distribution will be equitable, based on need. The federation will be secular and will protect the rights of those residents and citizens who experience religious discrimination in Israel and/or in Palestine. It will also create curricula that include multiple narratives. It's a solution as complex as the problems, complex enough to address it adequately. Crucially, it's deeply grounded in the principles of inclusiveness, equality, and security.
This Haggadah presents many creative visions of peace solutions. Ultimately, it is likely that Palestinian, Israeli, and international diplomats will eventually hammer out their own solution, and they're probably not going to adopt any of ours wholesale. Although every one of us who has worked on a solution believes that the one we worked on, or the latest one that we worked on, is the best one. If one of these is adopted and it works, that will be great. And for those of us who like a different plan better, here again, Deinu, it will have to be enough for us. But if the diplomats gather and negotiate as diplomats tend to do, and instead of getting stuck on the details of the two-state solution with borders that nobody likes, they look at all of our confederation solutions and use them to find ways out of every problem. That may be even better. And again, if we're disappointed that it's not a wholesale adoption of our favorite plan, Deinu, we'll need to be enough for us. But in order to make this possible, we need to expand the paradigm so that these plans are at the negotiating table.
Ilu chotzi chotzianu chotzianu mitzrayim chotzianu mitzrayim dayenu 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 Ilu natan natan lanu et Shabbat natan lanu et Shabbat dayenu 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 Ilu natan natan lanu et Hamikra natan lanu et Hamikra dayenu 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 And thank you, Mary Ellen, for pulling out a
Dayenu
drum to
means
play
it
along
would
with
be
us,
enough.
even if we
If
couldn't
God
hear.
had only brought us out of Egypt, it would have been enough for us to offer thanks. If God had only given us Shabbat, Dayenu. If God had only given us the Holy Scriptures, Dayenu. What does this mean? It would have been enough. Surely no one of these alone would have been enough for us. It means to celebrate each step toward freedom as if it were enough, and then to start out on the next step. It means that if we reject each step because it is not the whole liberation, we will never be able to achieve the whole liberation. It means to sing each verse as if it were the whole song, and then to sing the next verse.
So let's bring Dayenu into the present. We are grateful, and yet what miracle and accomplishment would be sufficient, Dayenu, in today's world for us to be truly satisfied? When all workers of the world receive just compensation and respect for their labors, enjoy safe, healthy, and secure working conditions, and can take pride in their work, Dayenu.
When governments end the escalating production of devastating weapons, secure in the knowledge that they will not be necessary,
Dayenu.
When technology is for the production and conservation of energy, and our other natural resources are developed so that we can maintain both responsible and comfortable lifestyles and still assure a safe environment for our children, Dayenu.
When the air, water, fellow creatures, and our beautiful world are protected for the benefit and enjoyment of all, Dayenu.
When all politicians work honestly for the good of all, Dayenu.
When all women and men are allowed to make their own decisions on matters regarding their own bodies and their personal relationships without discrimination or legal consequences, Dayenu.
When people of all ages, genders, races, religions, cultures, and nations respect and appreciate one another, Dayenu.
When all children grow up in freedom without hunger and with the love and support they all need to realize their full potential, Dayenu.
When all children, men and women, are free of the threats of violence, abuse, and domination, when personal power and strength are not used as weapons, Dayenu.
When all people have access to the information and care they need for their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, Dayenu.
When food and shelter are accepted as human rights, not as commodities, and are available to all, Dayenu.
Dayenu.
When no elderly person in our society has to fear hunger, cold, or loneliness, Dayenu.
Thank you. Rebecca.
When the people of the Middle East and all people living in strife are able to create paths to a just and lasting peace, Dayenu.
When people everywhere have the opportunities that we have to celebrate our culture and use it as a basis for progressive change in the world, Dayenu.
And all together we say, if tonight each person could say, this year I worked as hard as I could toward my goals for improving this world, so that one day all people can experience the joy and freedom I feel sitting with my family and friends at the Seder table. Dayenu, Dayenu.
In every generation, we are obligated to regard ourselves as though we had each personally come out of Egypt. As it is said, and you shall tell your child on that day, saying, it is because of what the divine did for me when I came out of Egypt. The Holy Blessed One redeemed not only our ancestors, but us as well, as it is said, and God brought us out from there in order to bring us in, to give us the land that God swore to our ancestors.
In every generation, each person should see themselves as part of not only their own story, but also a shared narrative. Let us remember that our collective journey, though filled with different experiences and memories, has brought us to a shared moment. Here, we are not just recounting tales of old. We are also weaving a new story, one of understanding, solidarity, and peace in the land. May this retelling not only honor the past, but also illuminate our path forward, inspiring us to transform our shared landscape into a place of mutual respect, justice, equality, and enduring peace for all. No matter how one interprets that God might bring us in to give us the land, fate intertwined multiple peoples through their connection to the same land.
Recent history has shown us numerous ethnic conflicts from which we can learn to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission contributed significantly to South Africa's healing by revealing human rights abuses and fostering reconciliation during its transition from apartheid to democracy. Existing power disparities have led Palestinians to face numerous hardships, including besiegement, military checkpoints, travel restrictions, security barriers, unequal resources, and administrative pressures. At the same time, Israelis endure constant security threats, and fear of violence.
October 7th was a horrific illustration of this. The first and second Nakba and the ongoing refugee plight remind us of the importance of acknowledging our histories of oppression as we pave the path towards freedom. Recognizing the suffering and displacement on both sides is essential for building empathy and laying the groundwork for a secure future for all involved.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Lie, 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 and Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. All women touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And Miriam, the prophet, took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her, just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang a song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. La 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 la
We've got one other song coming up, and I just want to provide a little bit of background to this. Back in 1996, I brought a group of people up to a camp called Seeds of Peace, which is a program that brings together campers ages 13 to 17 from Israel, Palestine, Egypt, Jordan, Bosnia, Serbia, Turkey, and Greece, and teaches them coexistence. One of the things we did on this is we asked whether there could be anyone had any music that they wanted to teach us, and one 16-year-old Jordanian, Noor Mughrabi, came and introduced us to this song. We wrote some English to go with it. We put it together as a song, and we were actually fortunate enough to be able to get Noor, when she was 16, into a recording studio so that we could record her track, and then we composed around the track that she put in. Parenthetically, a few years ago, Sandy and I were traveling to Jordan, went and had a dinner with Noor and her husband and her 2 kids, and were able to sing this song again, all of us together, including the kids, singing the song of peace. You'll find peace in the middle of this storm. Here is the song. The lyrics you'll see. I did my best to give a transliteration of the Arabic lyrics because it's primarily Noor in her 16-year-old self singing this song.
إن بكيت حاول مرة
That is our hope. And then we have one more song here before moving in, and I'll just play a bit of this. This is Pete Seeger and Lee Hayes, If I Had a Hammer.
If I had a hammer, I'd bring it all. Hammer evening. Oh, this
It is a song. That song actually has been translated into over 100 languages. It has become one of the songs that is most shared globally. Go into a blessing of our second cup, the cup of deliverance. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, source of being, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. You may drink the cup of deliverance. So we're now to Ratzah.
At the Passover Seder, Ratzah, the ritual hand washing, symbolizes shared purification and renewal. Renewal includes bridging divides between Israelis and Palestinians. It underscores a readiness to pursue a shared vision. By washing our hands, we affirm our collective journey and commitment to peace. There is also a tradition of washing each other's hands. This lets us each experience the liberation of receiving help and also recognize the liberation of helping others freely, rather than being compelled to. In addition, it reminds us that true liberation occurs only when we collaborate.
I have to unmute as we wash our hands. And we help each other, help wash each other's hands. As it says, careful and minimal splashing. I'm now going to hold it for Sandy. This picture, by the way, is a Palestinian picture. So it was from the West Bank in Palestine area. So the Palestinian craftsmanship, which seems appropriate for this service, of this part of washing the hands. Nina, if you would read the prayer.
ברוכה את יה אלוהינו חי העולמים אשר קידשתנו במצוותיה וציוותנו על נטילת ידיים. Blessed are you, Creator, our God, life of all the worlds, who has given us a pathway to holiness through the commandments and commanded us regarding hand washing.
Now we are at the matzah.
The bread or matzah brings forth reflections on a shared agricultural heritage. It's a testament to the region's fertile soil and the countless generations that have tilled it. Grain products, foundational to diets, reiterate the common ground they share, literally and metaphorically. Grains are also common allergens. To share a meal with others safely, we must meet their needs, even when they are very different from our own. With the blessing over the matzah, the Seder sets the stage for the shared meal. This act is symbolic of more than just sustenance. It's about dialogue, understanding, and peace building. Just as grains from different fields may come together to form a single bread, so too can diverse communities come together for shared goals.
Thank you. And we read together, after having journeyed
through stories
and reflection.
The act of breaking bread or matzah becomes all the more poignant. To dine together is to heal together. The very act of sharing a meal emphasizes the potent possibility of healing past wounds. And then we will go together, and Ignat, if you would read the gender-neutral blessing, please.
Nivarech et Adonai Eloheinu makor hakayim al hotzat lechem min haaretz. Let us bless our foundation, divinity, source of life, for the act of bringing forth bread from the earth.
Thank you. And I will read the traditional. Baruch atah Adonai, let's say, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. Blessed are you, divine presence, our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us a pathway to holiness through the commandments and commanded us regarding the eating of matzah. Now everybody can, if you happen to have, eat a piece of matzah.
Why are we ignoring peace's most valuable players? Let us take a moment to honor our sisters who have sacrificed both in wartime and for peace. Work in these areas takes courage and devotion. Women give with their minds, bodies, hearts, souls, and lives. Women's voices are essential for building a just and long-lasting peace. The United Nations reported that peace agreements were 20% more likely to last at least 2 years if women were involved in negotiating them. Who better understands the impacts of situations such as sexual violence, displacement, and relocation? Yet only 16% of conflict party delegations in UN-led or co-led peace processes included women, from a high of 23% in 2020.
What are the obstacles to including more women, and aren't you sick of asking this question? Female peacekeepers often battle against deeply entrenched patriarchal sensibilities that do not see them or us as equal or even legitimate actors. They face violence, legal restrictions, physical attacks, intimidation, and criminalization. The UN Human Rights Office states that between May 2021 and April 2022, 172 women human rights defenders and civil society organizations face reprisals or intimidation for their cooperation with the United Nations. Nevertheless, 12,000 women continue to serve in 12 peacekeeping missions around the world, where they perform a wide variety of military and civilian duties.
Even where women are nominally equal, there can be communication barriers. Israeli couples therapist Susan Heitler explains in Psychology Today that women are relational. They like to collect the facts, study the details, and explore alternatives, thus formulating a more well-rounded solution. According to Heitler, men generally like to get to the solution fast. This difference can be a sticking point in interactions.
In Israel, it is mandatory for women to serve in the military. Some of these women were deployed to form the bulk of the surveillance team for the Gaza border. Surviving surveillance soldiers report that months in advance of October 7th, they had repeatedly warned superiors of Hamas's training activities in Gaza. However, all their concerns were ignored. They were told that the activities were normal, no matter the frequency or types of the activities described. It's infuriating, one of the survivors told Khan News of the intelligence failure. We saw what was happening. We told them about it, and we were the ones who were murdered.
What could be the reasons for ignoring their pleas? It's been suggested that the age-old issue had reared its ugly head. Women were the ones doing the reporting. I could just picture their superiors saying, there, sweetie, calm down, it's normal, everything will be all right, until it wasn't. This seems to reflect the arrogance of those in positions of power who often do not see the impact of their ways on those with less or perhaps virtually no power. The price for their disdain was the wretched sorrow of their entire nation and of Jews in the diaspora and others who love Israel throughout the world.
We see that same arrogance from a power imbalance distorting the relationship between Israelis and Palestinians. It can put blinders on many Israelis who are often not merely dismissive of Palestinian pleas and suffering, but also seem oblivious to them. And the Palestinians also cannot discount the impact of years of terrorism that Israelis have endured. The bottom line is that we have both peoples suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Decades of fear and trauma can't be ignored. How do these excruciating experiences impact decisions? The Israel-Hamas war added unfathomable pain for us all. We have to tread lightly to help. The essential tool for working on peace is listening with compassion. To do this, we must often keep our mouths shut and listen to the feelings beyond the words. Only then can we begin to see the human connection that can lead to a brighter path.
As a woman, I feel visceral pain from the violence Hamas unleashed against women on October 7th. Girls and women were tortured, violated, and murdered. May their memories be a blessing.
Sexual and gender-based violence, a psychological tool for perpetrators to assert control and humiliate the enemy, is a breach of international humanitarian law. The physical mutilation of victims of October 7th, combined with the torment inflicted on parents and children as their families were savagely harmed or killed in front of them, goes far beyond an act of resistance or even warfare. It was evil. The denial of these atrocities is another paragraph in the tragic history of the Jewish people.
The silence of some women's rights organizations in the wake of October 7 was deafeningly painful for women. I'm left feeling that as a Jewish woman, my life is perceived as less important, and those who otherwise stand up for women ignore crimes against Israeli and Jewish women. How does the world allow this to be acceptable? Heartbreakingly, it's not the first time. The question is, what can we do to make this the last time?
And now we read about the humiliation, rape, and threats of rape that Palestinian prisoners have suffered at the hands of the IDF. It is essential that all the claims of rape and sexual violence, whether alleged by Palestinians against the IDF or by Israelis against Hamas, be investigated by expert, vetted women for the comfort of the potential victims. Rape and threats of rape have no legitimate place anywhere. Who will most of the innocent victims of these crimes be in any wartime scenario? Predictably, women, also even more atrociously, children.
In 2000, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. It was the first Security Council resolution that required parties in a conflict to prevent violations of women's rights, to support women's participation in peace negotiations and post-conflict reconstruction, and protect women and girls from wartime sexual violence. It was also the first to specifically mention the impact of conflict on women. The resolution has since become an organizing framework for the women, peace, and security agenda. Sorry, but reading the tepid wording of this resolution, emphasizing these facts, I find it too little too late, as well as too self-congratulating. It seems so backward even for the year 2000.
Decades later, the impact of the resolution also leaves much to be desired, because the UN does not have the ability to enforce, but merely to recommend. The resolution is little more than pretty words on paper. In the 10-year evaluation of the impact of Resolution 1325, the Department of Peacekeeping Operations reported that sexual and gender violence continues to be widespread, with impunity for those who commit it. Women in conflict areas are still essentially unprotected.
Let's get back to my favorite subject, Israelis and Palestinians working together toward peace. One group, Women Wage Peace, started in 2014 after the Gaza war and has grown to over 20,000 members and supporters. It connects Israeli and Palestinian women from the grassroots, encourages peace negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians, and urges the enforcement of UN Resolution 1325. Vivian Silver, one of its founders, may have died on October 7th, but her work lives on.
Other groups work hard to amplify women's voices and women's issues in their cadre of activities for peace. Even during the Israel-Hamas war, Roots, Shorashim, Judur, and Interfaith Encounter Association continue to organize women's dialogue groups of Israeli and Palestinian women. These women promote peace together even during war. Amen. May you live in peace, Shalom, and Salam.
And this song seemed to fit what we're talking about here.
I'm calling you, Sarah. This is your sister, Hagar. centuries to reach you from afar. Here's my son Ishmael, your sister's son alive. We share the sons of Abraham, two peoples, one tribe. Oh, yes, I am your Sarah. I remember you, Hagar. Your voice comes through the distance, a cry upon my heart. It was I who cast you out in fear and jealousy, yet your vision survived the wilderness to reach your destiny. But it wasn't till my Isaac lay under the knife that I recognized your peril, the danger to your life. I tremble now, Hagar, our peril's still the same. We will not survive as strangers. We must speak each other's names. We must tell each other stories, make each other strong, and sing the dream of ancient lands where both of us belong. Oh, let us hear the prayers your spirit first was sung, that all of our children may call this land their home. Yes, let us hear the prayers where spirit first was sung, that all of our children may call this land their home.
Maror. We eat the bitter herbs, usually horseradish, to recall the bitterness of slavery. Entrusting the narrative surrounding Maror to Palestinian writers offers an authentic avenue to amplify voices that have felt the deepest bitterness and anguish stemming from the conflict. Their perspectives bring to light the experiences of countless individuals affected by displacement and military occupation. A biting taste of the bitter herbs is not merely a ritualistic echo of the past, but a tangible reminder of the pain, loss, and hardships faced by Palestinians. Maror also evokes the historical pain endured by the Israelites in Egypt, as well as by Israelis who have been victims of violence. It is a stark reminder that histories of suffering can coexist, and that past experiences should pave the way for empathy and understanding. It is an acknowledgement that while the past had its hardships, the present carries its own set of challenges, challenges that both communities can work through together.
Where? To Ramallah. This was my answer when friends on social media inquired about my destination after I uploaded a picture from Cairo International Airport, along with a humorous depiction of the traditional folk song, Where? To Ramallah.
This song originated with the loved ones of Jordanian aristocrats who would spend their summers lounging the Ramallah during the 1950s. The song echoes their friends and families, wishing them a hasty and safe return. That's how my decade-long journey from Cairo back to Ramallah began, with a humorous yearning for my homeland, mixed with skeptical anxiety about what to expect once my footsteps found their footing on Palestinian soil, stained with a brush of fear of the new Israeli government and escalation on the ground.
I'm not a Jordanian, nor am I an aristocrat. I'm a Palestinian who happens to be a refugee carrying the flag of a third generation of refugeehood. Was I in exile in Egypt? Is expatriate a more palatable term? Your label of my status are rendered irrelevant, for I was finally returning home. returning to whatever was left of my Palestine. The journey crossing the Allenby Bridge was exhausting. The longing to meet old friends and schoolmates, rekindle my relationships, and throw myself into the arms of my parents after a decade-long absence provided the necessary energy and determination to succeed. Alas, my dream was coming true, came an undesired price. A heaviness sitting in my heart from my fear that I had lost something along the way. My feelings were mixed with excitement and utter shock. I felt as though I was looking into a mirror where reflections of the past disappeared, into a wormhole of a completely unlived universe. In other words, the West Bank and Ramallah were not the same as what I had known. They were almost unrecognizable. I did not experience any tingling sensation of déjà vu or nostalgia. Indeed, the landscape is as mesmerizing as I left it, reminding me of its exalted days as the land of milk and honey. And yes, the handsome and beautiful faces of its men and women mirrored the vision in my memory, as did the renowned generosity and kindness of the people I left behind for only a while. I was reminded, too, by posters of martyrs plastered throughout the region, of souls lost at the hands of a brutal occupation. As disoriented as I felt in those early days, I found relief in the survival of one singular truth, the solidarity of my people. Our unity remained crystallized, suspended in time so that even my lost decade could not erode this binding force. I witnessed firsthand the populous, commercial, civil strikes after the devastating and tragic events that unfolded in Nablus and Jenin. These strikes were not mere symbolic acts of protest. They were acts to honor the value of lost lives. Nonetheless, there were changes. Some of them were vivid and obvious even during my ride from the Allenby Bridge, while other changes revealed themselves after I began to find my bearings in the occupied West Bank.
The most obvious and unsettling change was the settlements, their expansion, their ongoing growth, the illegal new outposts, and the never-ending process of the relentless settlers biting off the hilltops of the West Bank. It was also hard not to notice droves of settlers taking to the streets in aggressive protests, a sight that was both odd and new for me to witness. Years ago, I lived in the West Bank for nearly 15 years, and this was the first time I saw settlers publicly gathering with such vehemence. Before this new reality, the only occasion to see the Israeli flag waving in the streets of the West Bank was in May of each year, in commemoration of the establishment of the State of Israel. Now, and as bizarre as it is to me, the Israeli flag is paraded at almost every junction of those settlements, paraded not on top of road lights, as was common, but in the hands of settlers singing and celebrating. The settlements, their ill-gotten gain, is not enough for them, so they are compelled to take more and more land. This has become an addictive behavior, and it is practiced with much pride, as witnessed by the gigantic billboard in the middle of Ma'ale Adumim, stating, "I love MA."
It wasn't just settler pride that I noticed while roaming the West Bank. I noticed an unparalleled fear as well. Such fear, for example, led to their fortifying their bus stops. Cement blocks with heavily armed soldiers positioned defensively stand between those bus stops and the line of incoming traffic. Regardless of how many settlers are waiting for their transportation, those soldiers are always on high alert with their guns pointed toward ongoing cars. This made me wonder over what premise would those soldiers standing at attention determine that there is an imminent threat directed towards them.
While traveling the roads of the West Bank, I've also observed that the attitude and behavior of settlers are more aggressive and hostile toward Palestinian drivers. Settlers carry this so far as to disregard traffic rules and road safety. Indeed, there has also been construction of new roads connecting different destinations, as well as renovation of other roads, not only to facilitate the flow of traffic, but also to alter and control Palestinian use of certain roads in the West Bank to avoid sharing the roads with settlers. However, such disengagement cannot be perfected. It is inevitable that Palestinians and settlers will continue sharing roads because of the simple geographical fact that the hilltops with Palestinian and Israeli homesteads are deeply intertwined.
Moreover, it's quite clear that the Israeli government is deliberately fragmenting the West Bank under the unconcealed pretense of security. They are slicing it up into multiple Palestinian cantons so that Palestinian cities and towns can be easily controlled via the cancerous checkpoints and cement roadblocks that funnel Palestinian movement according to Israeli wishes. The Israeli state has fashioned itself into a giant electronic control panel with many switches and with a circuit breaker held in the grip of decision makers in Tel Aviv. Yet, what truly astonished me upon my return was the increased number of switches and their typology in that control panel. Now there are cameras spying on and monitoring Palestinian enclaves with high-tech lights irradiating barbed wire fences instead of roads and walkways. Take the village of Chizma, for instance. It is now encircled by barbed wire fencing with giant flashlights lighting it up instead of illuminating the nearby highway. A checkpoint at the only entrance to Chizma dictates when residents will arrive home. Checkpoints, soldiers, and barbed wire, all designed to convert Chizma from a residential neighborhood into a prison yard.
Last but not least, I was stung by discovering the much-changed graffiti murals at the Kalandia checkpoint. There were two famous notable murals, one of Yasser Arafat and one of Maran Berghouti. The long years of protest and burnt tears have blackened and distorted these works of magnificent art. These murals stand for the fact that no matter how many generations pass or what changes of leadership occur, as long as the status quo remains and as long as Palestinians draw breath, Palestinians will always stand against their occupation.
I've returned home to experience not the love of country, not the love of home and country, but the voluminous control switches imposing their will on the lives of Palestinians in each of their enclaves. We have 75 years of evidence on the ground of each year being more dangerous, more brutal for Palestinians than prior years.
Following the 2022 election of a new Israeli government, the aggressive attitude of settlers found an outlet and upsurge. Palestinians have had 75 years of clarity about these circumstances, and now Israelis in the world have no choice but to share a small piece of the Palestinian lens. Fascism has come out of its closet, and it is finally an indisputable fact that the Israeli government and its supporters have no intention whatsoever of sharing the land.
Any hope I carried with me about coming home to a viable, sovereign Palestinian state has been smothered by this new reality. Creating a one-state solution with equal rights for all its residents between the river and the sea is the only possible solution ahead of us. We often try to avoid bitterness, both culinary and emotional. Western holistic traditions, including those of Middle East, teach that we need to consume bitter flavors for proper digestion and liver function. Eastern holistic traditions teach that we need bitter flavors for the heart, for emotional well-being or wellness, and for digestive and emotional absorption.
As we experience the bitter flavors, let's invite them to open our hearts and our guts, our kishkas, to take in, digest, and absorb all the experiences that we are discussing tonight. Let's work with the bitters to open ourselves to the experiences of the other, so we can think together about how to move forward and build a shared future of peace, one in which we make space to acknowledge the bitter as we create a more bountiful and pleasant tapestry of flavor.
So participants, all of us, can take a small piece of the maror, and we bring this for Nina to do the prayer, please.
ברוכה את יא אלוהינו חי העולמים אשר קידשתנו במצוותיה וציוותנו על אכילת
Maror. Right. It appears that we have the wrong Hebrew here. So next version we get that set. Now my eyes stop watering. Very bitter maror. Very good horseradish. We eat a sandwich made of matzah, maror, and for those who have the tradition, karoset, in memory of the temple era custom of Hillel the elder. Korech, Hillel's sandwich, is a complex melange of tastes. The bitter maror clashes with the sweet karoset, just as sorrow and joy clash. This is a testament to the reality that even in the hardest of times, we may sometimes still find glimpses of hope and moments of joy. Just as the ingredients of the sandwich are distinct yet come together to form a whole, the layered identities of Israelis and Palestinians each with unique experiences, struggles, and aspirations, converge in the shared space of the region. They may be distinct, but they are also interdependent. The dual themes of hardship and hope that we explore through Korach remind us that Palestinians and Israelis, despite their differences, harbor similar emotions, fears, aspirations, dreams, and ties to this holy land. We're coming up to the what would normally be the Passover Seder meal, but we don't really have a meal to be able to go through. So let's just read the paragraph.
This is a key part of the Passover Seder, where after sharing the Exodus story and eating symbolic foods like matzah and bitter herbs, everyone enjoys a big meal. This isn't just any meal. It's filled with traditional foods like matzah, wine, gefilte fish, matzah ball soup, and brisket, varying from one Jewish community to another. To this, one may introduce the Palestinian cuisine. This Haggadah prompts participants to ponder not only the historical whys, but also the forward-looking why-nots, especially in the context of the ongoing violence and the seemingly untenable two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. Therefore, this part introduces discussions on peace models, such as confederation and federation, highlighting their differences and interconnectedness, and encourages contemplation on future resolutions to the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians.
Before October 7th, did you think the two-state solution was dead? Now it's on many world leaders' lips at least, but that's because that's what they know about. How many years have you heard about the two-state solution, yet apparently neither side was that impressed, and they're still fighting? Remember that old expression, if you keep hitting your head against the wall and expect a different result, you must be crazy? Well, why not check out something new? There are 9 peace proposals from the Federal Forum, what I'd call a think tank based on more of a federation or confederation model, like the United States or the EU. Please listen to this clip to get a flicker of an understanding of what may lead to a peaceful solution if the diplomats on both sides pay attention. It's a brief explanation of one of the proposals, the Federation Movement, led by Emmanuel Shehav.
If the words, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, make you feel like going to sleep, you're not alone. Demonstrations, settlements, territories, people keep talking about it and nothing ever changes. The Israeli left wants peace, but the left leaders don't consider it a priority. The Israeli right doesn't like the present situation, but they really can't think of a better alternative. But the status quo is bad, both for Israelis and Palestinians. The conflict leads to terrorism and hurts Israel's relationships with other countries. Just ask Jews living outside Israel. But for Israelis, the most destructive thing about the conflict is the polarization and even hatred it leads to among Israelis. So if there's such a fundamental problem, why aren't we dealing with it? Because we've been taught for years that there are 2 possible solutions: 2 states or 1 state. The 2-state solution seems impractical. It's hard to imagine that even a leftist government will be able to get hundreds of thousands of settlers out of the West Bank. The 1-state solution, we've been told, will make it impossible for Israel to remain a Jewish state. But instead of accepting a situation that's only getting worse, we need to look for new solutions. And we think our proposal is worth checking out. A federal union. A federal union or federation can accomplish 2 goals: living together peacefully and not giving up what's most important to us. We suggest dividing Israel into 30 counties or cantons, like the northern canton in the Haifa region, the Ramallah and Sharon cantons in the center, and the Beersheba canton in the south. Each canton will be autonomous in things like the economy and education, so secular, religious, Jewish, and Arab ways of life are protected. 60 new members will join the Knesset, our parliament, which will make sure that Israel remains a Jewish state. The Gaza Strip will not be part of the federation. Hopefully its residents will appreciate the regional prosperity it offers, which will inspire them to choose peace so they can enjoy it too. We think the Israeli way is not to learn to live with problems, it's to think outside the box, improvise, and solve them. Our plan has a lot more to it. Leading academics and security experts wrote a detailed document, and we invite you to read it, comment, and suggest improvements. Because if we can solve this issue, we can achieve anything.
The Afikomen ritual during the Passover Seder involved the breaking, hiding, and searching of a piece of matzah. It symbolizes more than the ancient Paschal lamb and the Jewish redemption from Egyptian slavery. It introduces an interactive, hopeful element to the Seder, engaging participants in the broader themes of freedom and remembrance as the last taste of Passover. Just as the Afikomen is hidden during the course of the Seder, narratives in the Israel-Palestine discourse have sometimes been concealed or overlooked, and often they remain unacknowledged. This element of the Seder shines a spotlight on those stories, giving them the attention and validation they deserve. Just as children ardently search for the Afikomen, there's a universal longing to uncover and truly understand the nuanced collective histories and individual experiences. And joy and relief that come with finding the Afikomen mirror the hope that many Palestinians harbor for recognition, justice, and liberty. Finding the Afikomen thus becomes a symbol of collective hope, a reminder that, like much of the essential completion of the Seder with the Afikomen, a peaceful future for Israel-Palestine hinges on bringing all stories into the light.
I wish that the negotiation for the Afikomen, the simplicity of negotiating for it tonight, were as easy when applied to other things for which we have to negotiate, because we found it, so we're here. But we'll now read aloud together at the bottom of the page, on mute. The Afikomen, once hidden and now found, concludes the meal. It symbolizes wholeness and the mystical Jewish idea of tikkun, world repair. Its concealment and discovery echo the often overlooked stories or hidden narratives within the Israel-Palestine discourse, highlighting the need for their recognition. This custom of children searching for the Afikomen parallels the search for understanding and justice in the suppressed narratives, reflecting a broader desire for acknowledgement.
Finding the Afikomen
represents not just a personal achievement, but a broader hope for the future where all voices are heard and valued, essential for the Israel-Palestine journey towards peace. As we eat the Afikomen, consider the ways in which recognition and acknowledgement bring tikkun. Start with having Penny read the beginning of some of what she wrote.
Okay, discovering peace in the Middle East. Regardless of convention, I always capitalize peace. Peace is so important. There are pockets of peace in the Middle East, even in times of war, but you must know where to look. As the Peace Haggadah says, the Afikomen is eventually found and shared, a symbol of hope and redemption. What hidden opportunities can we find for peace and cooperation? I'm tired of hearing there will never be peace in the Middle East. It may make a catchy rhyme, but as a life plan, it sucks. Some Israeli and Palestinian peace organizations have been working together for over 2 decades. Amen.
Did you know there are hundreds of peace organizations in Israel and the West Bank filled with both Israelis and Palestinians who work together on peace? They have been for years, but they get little press. What we see on our phones, computer screens, and television set fills the journalistic adage, if it bleeds, it leads. Horrific scenes of people caught in the crossfire flood the media together with inhumane answers to the question of what should be done to resolve the conflict. You must ask yourself, what has that done to the national psyches of both peoples, both in the Middle East and the two diasporas?
The Israeli and Palestinian peace organizations are the embodiments of hope. Within these organizations, both sides realize that each loves this land, neither side is going away, and everyone must learn to live together peacefully. They work on peace from many angles, like a beautiful sparkling diamond. The light refracts off the facets and changes the participants' beliefs as they interact together and transforms negative perceptions into reflections of empathy and understanding. The lessons they learned are seared into them and embodied closely within their hearts.
The choices of how they work on peace are varied. The menu from which to select an area you might want to choose for your peace work is a smorgasbord of delicacies to fit your taste, medicine, the environment, sports, language, music, education, interfaith dialogue, technology, law, diplomacy. There are many interesting ways in which peace is awakened.
Many of the peace organizations have several profound projects, and Project Rosanna is one of them. If you're interested in medicine, do you prefer helping Israeli hospitals treating Palestinian patients, including children with long-term challenging illnesses, supported by Project Rosanna? Or would you like to help the volunteers on both sides of the checkpoints to drive Palestinians safely to their medical appointments? The road to recovery will help you find your way. When you are driving patients, sometimes daily, to try and save their lives, they can become like family. We share the roots of the Abrahamic religions, and it isn't natural to let those roots dig deep and spread. There are also Israeli and Palestinian nurses and doctors sharpening their skills alongside one another as they all gain deeper knowledge within their specialties at the Project Rosanna Specialist Nursing Hub.
Or maybe you're a scientist with a new creative idea. Wouldn't you like to go to Malta Conference Foundation's annual conference, where young scientists meet with Nobel laureates to discuss their work? You might think to yourself, but there are Palestinians, but there are Palestinians or Israelis there, depending on who you think the other is. But what an opportunity. And what happens? Through their mutually beneficial scientific interests, they meet many members of the other side for the first time. And who knew this would be possible? They discuss, challenge one another, and agree, and some may choose to collaborate and even become friends.
These organizations can turn your beliefs and assumptions on their head. What do you mean there are religious Israeli settlers who work together on peace with Palestinians in the West Bank? There are. Open your heart with this beautiful story of compassion at Ruth Shoashim Judur. This is great news, don't you think? Remember that assume can make an ass out of you. And
the organization Path of Hope and Peace has fostered peace in a triumvirate. Tzur Hadassah, a secular Jewish town on the Green Line border with Beitar Illit, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish town in Judea and Samaria, and Husan, a Palestinian town in the West Bank that has so violent and terrorist-filled that they were the Jenin of their day. But even over 150 days into the Israel-Hamas war, as I write this, the streets there are quiet. They have developed a peaceful coexistence that they don't want to give up. When a Palestinian restaurant in Husan becomes kosher under rabbinic certification, so their Jewish patrons from the other towns can eat while they watch the soccer games together, something is going very right.
Michael Hunter Oakes is a multi-platinum and award-winning songwriter whom I've known for a couple of years now. He's accomplished in writing pop music hits and songs for film, TV, as well as a library filled with Jewish music. He has been kind enough to let me use one of the beautiful songs called A Healing Song, Refuah Shalema, for my video series. I wanted to share it with our audience because I love the words, and in these dark times, we could all use some healing. This passion project is a collaboration with award-winning Palestinian peace activist, songwriter, and poet Ala al-Shaham. This American Jew and Palestinian Muslim duo have an upcoming album called The Pursuit of Harmony. It's a whole album of peace songs, certain to put a smile on your face.
Or maybe you are more into languages or sports. Did you know that chess is considered a sport? Speaking of chess, our friend Lior Eisenberg holds chess tournaments for Israelis and Palestinians, as well as between other groups that have experienced strife. His work has been recognized by UNESCO. Some of the world's best-known chess players have participated in a tournament honoring the hostages held in the Bundestag, Germany's parliament. Judith Polgar, a Hungarian Jew who is the all-time #1 female chess player, and her sister, who is also a master chess player and lives in Israel, played an exhibition tournament against 40 German chess players simultaneously. Several members of the Polgar family had been killed in the Holocaust, and their grandmother was a survivor of Auschwitz. With tears in my eyes, I breathed a sigh of relief and hope. Yes, given the right circumstances, things can change. Will we see a similar reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians in the future? Let's hope so.
Tennis is another avenue whereby Israelis and Palestinians compete together. Why not have some athletic fun with the kids at Tennis for All while working on peace? Unity is Strength, which organized our Peace Haggadah, started as an online forum on the website Quora. It grew into one of the largest Israel-Palestine peace-building communities on the internet, with many millions of views of its tens of thousands of contributed posts by hundreds of writers, focusing on areas where Palestinians and Israelis can work together in a grassroots fashion. It aims to identify specific actions and achieve them.
Before the Israel-Hamas war, many people thought the two-state solution was dead. We'll see. I was honored to be asked by Challenge to interview the Federal Forum members who have developed alternative peace proposals based on federation or confederation models, similar to the United States or the European Union. Unfortunately, I can't name all the focuses of the organizations here, nor share stories from them.
Here's one last invitation for you to consider. No, I'm not going to ask you to go to a war zone and to see how it changes you. Please do us all a favor and do what you love to do. We need your skills to make this world better. When you work on what you love, doors will open. If nothing else, it will feel like you aren't even working. Passover is about freedom, making choices, and believing. Believe in yourself, and we all will benefit. May you live in peace, shalom, and salam.
From Rami Aman.
Voices of Courage, Gaza Youth Committee's Quest for Peace. Seeking liberation from military occupation is akin to struggling against drowning. Every aspect of Palestinian life is profoundly impacted by this reality. It's like swimming against a relentless current. Our aspirations for freedom etched into a life buoy, employing every conceivable method to attain it. Working for peace on the ground in Gaza can be perceived as looking for that proverbial lost needle in the haystack. But what if you were told that the lost needle was found and it was always there in front of us? Unfortunately, many of us have looked in the wrong places, and some even seek to justify the despair of the current dystopian reality. The hopes that actually exist for peace to go over the heads of many, while loud voices try to do their best to bang on the walls of the tank. At the same time, for numerous Palestinians in Gaza and Israelis in neighboring communities, the longing for peace transcends mere wishing. It becomes a tangible, albeit fleeting, reality in their lived experiences. The Gaza Youth Committee is committed to cultivating such connections between Israelis and Palestinians through the creation of spaces that authentically reflect their intertwined realities, in the belief that change is attainable when individuals recognize and empathize with the humanity of the other side. The key to repairing the toxic relationship between Israelis and Palestinians lies in establishing healthy lines of communication, as we acknowledge that the pursuit of peace itself is a form of resistance.
The key to repairing the toxic relationship between Israelis and Palestinians lies in establishing healthy lines of communication, as we acknowledge that the pursuit of peace itself is a form of resistance. Therefore, in 2010, the groundwork was laid for local projects and peace initiatives and other initiatives with Israeli partners committed to peace, not only in order to spread the gospel of peace, but to elevate the quality of life of Gazans as well.
In our efforts to strengthen and advance Palestinian society, the Gaza Youth Committee has initiated new relationships through social media platforms, including the Skype with Your Enemy project, launched in 2015. For many, it was a groundbreaking experience that tore down walls, enabling us to view each other as fellow humans, share our fears and dreams, and dispel the perception that Palestinians and Israelis must be enemies. It enabled the possibility of recognizing one another for who we truly are, human beings yearning to live in peace, safety, equality, and a shared reality of prosperity realized by all of us in the Holy Land. One of the most successful events brought together 200 Palestinian and Israeli participants on Zoom, proving the power of communication and encouraging us to continue and redouble our efforts. Despite facing opposition in Gaza, including the arrest of 8 committee members involved in the event, we remain undeterred in our pursuit of peace, using such challenges as fuel to propel us forward.
It may surprise many, but amplifying the prevailing peaceful attitude of the people in Gaza, along with their genuine desire for peace with Israelis, was a relatively straightforward task. Our primary role was to give voice to this sentiment. Inspired by this positivity and recognizing a fertile opportunity for peace, we conceived a symbolic gesture to showcase Gaza's desire for peace. So in 2018, during the March of Return protests at the border with Israel, we inaugurated a new era in Gaza and in Palestine in general, when we organized an initiative called the Dove Initiative, where we had 150 doves used for the sole purpose to transport letters of peace from Gazans to the world and Israelis. So many Gazans wanted to send messages of love and reassurance to Israelis that we didn't have enough doves for all of them. This effort had a big impact and led to many partnerships with Israelis. It was a huge morale boost for us in Gaza. Finally, we felt like our voices were being heard and that we were seen as fellow human beings.
As our cooperation with Israelis grew, we launched a new green initiative called Cleaning the Hate in partnership with the right-wing environmentalist organization The Home in Jerusalem. Together, we cleaned different beaches and public sites in the Gaza Strip in Jerusalem. As our youth cleaned up garbage and debris from our shared spaces, they also worked to clean hatred among people, embodying values of tolerance, initiative, responsibility, and respect for environment, each other, and themselves. Following that, the youth committee participated in the Theater Beyond Defense project, marking another groundbreaking milestone. The committee participated in a play organized by Israeli students from Shar HaNagev High School by filming a scene of 2 committee members in Gaza and sending it to our partner, the director Lahav Timor, who used the video as part of his play. This was the first theater cooperation between Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza Strip. In addition, the committee had one of its members, Hala Sayed, participate in a collaborative song with singer and director Lisa Shalom. The song titled Beauty and the Peace was filmed in Israel, Egypt, Sinai, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip between 2016 and 2019. Moreover, we distributed T-shirts with the logo Love is Stronger Than Hate in different areas and streets in partnership with the New York Says Thank You Foundation to patients, children, and disabled people to promote love through different activities and to prove that love will always be stronger than hate.
The committee's commitment toward its Palestinian people in Gaza means that we also carry out our duty to address internal local issues that Gazans are forced to face. There were numerous initiatives, humanitarian, cultural, and educational ones, aiming at facilitating solutions to the lived hardships of the people of Gaza. We even undertook some in coordination with the local authority in Gaza. For example, the Youth Committee established a model parliament for 30 female students aged between 12 and 15 years old in their UNRWA schools. In our sessions with these students, we concentrate on teaching the laws of parliamentary law and how to use the system to defend their rights and achieve equality for all the people in society. We also organized a trip for the Palestinian Legislative Council as a live simulation for the students to practice what they learned as elected parliamentarians to realize their creative visions for the different aspects of society. Moreover, 12 members of the Youth Committee met with the Ministry of Culture in the Gaza Strip and discussed the extremist mentality and how to overcome it. Members also worked together to promote the skills and talents of students artistically through theater, music, and other extracurricular activities inside the schools. Perhaps the most notable action practiced by the committee was having its members, along with other Palestinian activists, organize the We Need to Live protests against the oppressive rule of Hamas in Gaza. We campaigned and demonstrated while demanding a tangible improvement in life conditions, such as abolishing new and unjust taxation, as well as a reconciliation between the 2 major Palestinian factions, Fatah and Hamas. The leading role of the committee in those protests made the clash with Hamas and its security agencies inevitable.
We continued in 2019 with another initiative, the Freedom, Peace, Bike Riding Initiative, including over 50 participants in the Gaza Strip and over 150 Israelis with our partners in Israel, mainly Be'eri and Seder in coordination with the organizations Other Voice and All MEP. Such notable Israelis as Aaron, Lavi, Gershon, Baskin, Adele, Raymer, Ron Kedar, Julia, Shaitan, and Dan Hakim participated, as did a delegation from the Say No to Racism group from the United States through our partner Harlan Baker. Sadly, the tides have now changed, and the hyped sensation that all of us were getting closer to peace has crashed on the rocks of an unpleasant, harsh reality. As a result of our activity, unfortunately, 3 members of the communities, Mohammed Mir, Allah Kadam, and I were arrested by Hamas's authorities in Gaza following a huge campaign of threats on social media. We were subjected to systematic abuse and physical harm and accused of normalization or collaboration with the Israeli army. This situation underscores the challenges we confront when attempting to humanize the other side in the face of certain powers that want separation between Israelis and Palestinians. The irony of the entire situation was that I had posters of myself all over Tel Aviv put up by the Israeli peace organization Zizim a few months before I found myself languishing in the dungeons of Hamas.
This crackdown on peaceful voices alongside the ongoing siege of the Gaza Strip led to the harrowing reality of October 7th. This level of violence generated hate in a way that was never seen or felt before. The unparalleled devastation wrought by this late cycle of violence has rendered the pursuit of peace seemingly more elusive than ever before. In the face of crisis, true colors have been revealed as individuals retreat to their respective tribes, further diminishing an already marginalized peace camp.
We acknowledge the profound tragedy that has affected both Israelis and Palestinians, and we recognize the harm inflicted upon the trust we had painstakingly built with our Israeli peace partners. This blow has prompted us, Israelis and Palestinians, to deep introspection, leading each of us to question our positions and reassess our stances. Despite the devastating and calamitous setback we have faced, the Gaza Youth Committee remains steadfast to our core principles of peaceful resolutions and methods. The wound is deep, the loss is indescribable, the pain is unbearable, and we are all drained out. But as long as we have our breath, we at the Gaza Youth Committee are determined to remain true to our goal of peace by spreading the torch of hope, which is fueled by sorrow and regret, not anger and hate, to reignite our passion for peace and to illuminate our difficult path until we reach our destination. It is known that the wise ones are those who seek good company to soften the journey, and our journey is only for the honest and brave. If you are one, then this is an invitation for you to join us and embark on this journey with open arms. It is a debt, not an honor, that we owe our loved ones who have fallen, and this is a reminder.
Commentary. Proposals for the establishment of a joint Israeli-Palestinian memorial at the Nova Festival site by Walid and Ignat. Introduction. This memorial will pay tribute to every life lost in the tragic events of October 7th and the subsequent devastation in Gaza, as well as the gory escalation in the West Bank. This initiative symbolizes our deep commitment to nurturing a new shared memory that bridges cultural, religious, and national divides. We aim to lay down shared foundations in places marked by our intertwined destinies, uniting us through the universal human experiences of past sorrow and aspirations for a hopeful future. This initiative aims to turn pain into healing and grudges into self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others, overcoming the divide between two peoples to inspire a partnership based on shared living that the Holy Land and its people very much need. We believe that true justice means genuine reconciliation, and this tribute represents an opportunity for Israelis and Palestinians to demonstrate their ability to learn from past mistakes and improve. It's a testament to their potential to better themselves and a message to the world of their commitment to progress. This initiative extends an invitation to anyone who desires peace, be they individuals, groups, institutions, organizations, or even states, to participate and contribute towards achieving our shared goals of peace, love, and unity.
Establish a joint memorial to commemorate all the lives lost since October 7th and promote a shared narrative of healing, understanding, and power of unity. Facilitate healing and understanding for Israelis, This memorial offers a chance to face collective fears, control collective destiny, and take a pivotal step towards future peace by breaking the cycle of past traumas and moving forward with purpose and hope. For Palestinians, this memorial creates a space that positively and constructively affirms the connection to the land, heals longstanding injustices, and opens avenues for deeper engagement within a federal framework, enhancing a sense of belonging and active involvement in shaping a shared future.
Promote peace and a shared future. The memorial marks the potential start of a series of binational monuments, underlying the critical role that symbols of collective significance play in the process of nation building. It serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of peace is a prolonged journey, requiring steady and persistent effort rather than a quick race. And it passes along a message of hope that encourages and inspires active participation in reconciliation. Through this effort, we aim to enhance our unity and commitment to living together and set the stage for a future where peace is the norm.
Breaking bread, matzah, an act symbolizing unity and shared heritage, where participants come together to break pita matzah, reflecting common humanity. The pita matzah is dipped in labneh, za'atar, and olive oil, and muhamara. The food includes the 7 species, shivat haminim, the 7 agricultural products that are special to the land: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates.
Large puzzle for children. Children embark on an enlightening journey to assemble a puzzle that represents stories of pain, resilience, and hope to foster empathy, understanding, and the value of peace. The stories are based on writing by Israeli and Palestinian authors, and they are rendered into images by Israeli and Palestinian artists, accompanied by story cards that reveal the significance behind each puzzle image piece. Participants are divided into teams to search for these pieces using maps or clues that prompt reflection and discussion. Volunteers guide the activity, emphasizing teamwork and the shared goal of living together. The event culminates in the puzzle's assembly and a moment of reflection on its unifying message, followed by a celebration to reinforce the significance of togetherness and unity, further amplified by sharing the experience on social media and awarding participants with mementos that echo the event's ethos.
Musical, concert, or show. This activity aims to unite people through the power of music, creating harmony that softens the hearts of all involved. It will transform tears of sadness into tears of joy, featuring performances by 3 distinct choirs, 1 Israeli, 1 Palestinian, and 1 mix, symbolizing unity and shared hope, inviting a renowned international band or singers would elevate the event and draw wider attention to the cause.
Remembrance ceremony. A key highlight of the event will be a remembrance ceremony designed to celebrate the lives of those who have been lost as an affirmation of their lasting impact on our lives. Loved ones will have the opportunity to share positive memories and stories. The ceremony will be bookended with opening and closing remarks by Israeli and Palestinian representatives, emphasizing their commitment to dialogue, shared goal of peace.
Inauguration of an artistic monument. We propose the initiation of an annual memorial event aimed at cultivating a tradition of unity and shared reflection. Included in this proposal is a competition inviting sculptors and artists to create a monument that thoughtfully engages with themes of memory and hope and seeks to honor past losses while envisioning a future of innovation, commonality, and inclusiveness. It would embody both Israeli and Palestinian stories, promoting deeper understanding and unity. The final unveiling of this document will symbolize the complex mix of sorrow and hope, acting as a lasting testament to the resilience of our shared land and our collective dedication to a future shaped by our common equality and history.
Conclusion. The proposed joint memorial at the site of the Nova Festival will be more than just a monument. It will be a beacon of hope, a bridge between communities, and a testament to our shared commitment to forge a shared future together. By acknowledging our past, recognizing our commonalities, and working towards a shared objective, we lay the groundwork for a future where peace is not just a possibility, but a reality. We come closer to this goal with every significant step toward healing, understanding, reconciliation, and living in peace together.
Now fill the third cup, the cup of redemption. We will use a short version of the blessing after the meal. This Aramaic text comes from the Talmud. Baruch Rachamana Malka Dialma Marech Diche Pita. And the blessing, gender-neutral blessing, Ignat, for the wine.
Nevarech et Adonai Elfotenu Recha Olamim Al Briat Pri Hagafen.
Let us bless Yah, our divinity, life of all worlds, for the creation of the fruit of the vine.
Just as God redeemed the ancient Israelites from slavery in Egypt, tonight we wish for the Palestinians to be redeemed from their current state of imposed limbo. Their need for self-determination must be realized, and just as modern-day Israelis have gained sovereignty, a confederation or federation will give Palestinians the same.
Pour your love upon the nations who acknowledge you and upon the realms that call upon your name because of the kindness they show toward the descendants of Jacob and their protection of your people Israel from their oppressors. May they merit witnessing the sukkah of your chosen ones and rejoice in the happiness of your nations. This passage expresses a universalist message in asking for God's love to be poured upon all nations and countries that recognize and call upon the divine name. The reference to witnessing the sukkah of your chosen likely symbolizes a desire for all nations to share in the joy and protection that comes from being close to God, as symbolized by the sukkah, the hut that Jews set up during the holiday of Sukkot. These huts are modeled on the ones that the ancient Hebrews built in the Sinai desert, according to the Bible.
In a Haggadah focused on Israeli-Palestinian peace, Hallel is reimagined as a beacon of hope and peace, celebrating the potential for harmony and shared futures. It transforms into a bridge emphasizing unity and cooperation, and shifts from merely thanking the divine for past miracles to also embracing the opportunity to forge new paths toward love and peace together. Psalm 118, 19 through 22 calls for the opening of hearts, minds, and borders. It advocates for dialogue, understanding, and mutual respect. It is often sung as part of religious services, particularly during festivals and celebrations. The metaphor of the gates of righteousness being open signifies access to the divine presence and to blessings. Psalm 23 echoes the universal lodging for safety, peace, and prosperity. This integration makes Hallel not just a celebration of historical wonders, but a passionate appeal for love and peace. It invites participants to contemplate the strength of unity and the rewards of genuine collaboration. Reciting these texts encourages a commitment to overcoming obstacles through empathy and concerted efforts, acknowledging the complexities of the conflict while focusing on hope and our collective ability to create a harmonious future.
Open the gates of justice, open the gates for me, open the gates of righteousness, equally, open the gates of freedom, tell me what are we waiting for, equally, Sharet Tzedek Avovam, Odeya, equally, Sharet Tzedek Avovam, Odeya. Lock up the gates of hatred, lock them up, throw away the key, throw it away. Open the gates of justice, equally. Open the gates of tomorrow, yes, we've traveled oh so far, equally. Sharet Tzedek Avovam, Odeya, equally. Sharet Tzedek Avovam, Odeya. Heaven ma'asu habonim, hayta lerosh pinah. Heaven ma'asu habonim, Hayta lerosh binah. We're all in this together, oh, we've got to keep on going till the stone that the builders rejected becomes the chief cornerstone. Till the stone that the builders rejected becomes the chief cornerstone.
By Lee Boeri, God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God leads me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of God's name. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Eternal forever.
Psalm 23 is one of the most beautiful and philosophically significant of the Psalms in the Hebrew Bible. The trance-like imagery seems to connect us with the divine. Most of the major religions believe the essence of the divine being. They consider God as the embodiment of absolute, unconditional love. Consider then that it is divine love that lays us down in green pastures and beside still waters. It is love that sets us on the paths of righteousness. It is love that allows us to fear no evil.
We might think of God's rod and staff as a call to arms. Our guns and knives currently give us the impression of safety. Yet seen in the context of love, this psalm beckons us to see the rod and staff not as guns and knives, but as representations of love. We are given license to weaponize love, to make it both disarming and protective. We are taught that we are made in the image of God, and whether you believe this literally or see it as a metaphor, there is no doubting the meaning. Our experience of love reflects the divine. From the time we are born till we have the capacity to understand or articulate it, we still experience love.
Who does not hate their enemies? They certainly hate us, so it is sensible to defend ourselves from those who hate us. However, when hate festers, it is always at the expense of love. When it comes to the IP conflict, hate has taken pride of place and the region has become devoid of love. The status quo that has existed since the creation of Israel has seen the conflict spiral, thrusting both Palestinians and Israelis headlong into a valley of the shadow of death. This is where evil lurks, a place devoid of love and feeding on hate to build an atmosphere of perpetual fear. Each side claiming the terror and fear is the result of the other.
Psalm 23 challenges us to walk through the valley of the shadow of death with God's rod and staff, love, as the only weapon we need for protection. Given that guns and knives lead to the evil in the valley, is it not time to try love? Evil cannot feed on love. In our human experience, it is almost impossible to hate anyone who shows us only love. Conflict arises, whether among individuals or groups, when love breaks down, when there is loss of trust. People believe the other has fooled us and so wishes us only ill will. In the absence of love, we see and feel only resentment and hate. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We treat the other with contempt because we believe that they hate us, and they in turn begin to show us contempt. We look for evidence of their hate towards us. And of course, in the absence of love, we see it everywhere.
We have not yet tried to put our guns and knives away and disarm our enemy with love. The thought is terrifying. What if the enemy takes advantage of our goodwill? How can we risk anything other than taking up arms in the face of their hatred towards us? But would we risk it if they exhibited only love toward us? Of course we would. We are human. However, when we take up arms, we are often encouraged to see our enemy not as human, but as a target. It is difficult to fight with people we can relate to. Dehumanizing them makes it easy to see them as a manifestation of evil. But if we would stand together in the name of love, why should we not expect them to do the same? Are they not also human? Are they not also made in God's image? Are they not also capable of experiencing love? This idea is in itself liberating. It is liberation from a life of fear and terror. It may take us out of the shadows. Neither we nor our enemy need to look over our shoulders ever again. That is the promise of love.
If we can exhibit love rather than fear, we might just instill love in them rather than fear. We will fear no evil. Recently, previous generations, those lefty, peace-loving hippies and the civil rights activists believed love could transform the world. Their art, their stories, their songs still reverberate in us through the passage of time. They used love to stop wars, to end oppression, to change unjust laws, and they were fearless, often in the face of people wielding guns and knives. Above all else, they were disarming.
The recent generations that came before us showed us people cannot feel hate in the face of love. They showed us we need never be afraid when we exhibit only love. When exactly did we lose these lessons left to us by our parents and their parents? We went on to kill more of our enemies before they killed more of us. We believed that would keep us safe. Yet there we are today and nobody feels safe. Perhaps the escalation of the conflict serves as a reminder that Israel has become the valley of the shadow of death. We see evil behind each corner and fear fills the air. The irony is that Israel was intended to be a safe haven for Jews, where they could be fearless instead of continuing to use our guns and knives to combat evil. Perhaps Psalm 23 beckons us to try something radical, to try love, not only to love for each other, which we already have, but a far harder task, one that to date we have left to the divine, love for our neighbor, our enemy. Perhaps the solution to the conflict begins there.
Surely then goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives. We are then in the house of the divine, and as long as love remains, we will be dwelling in that house all the days of our lives, and with the grace of God, all the days of the lives of generations to come. It may just be the decision that will shine a light into the darkest corners of the valley of death. Perhaps the decision has the potential to transform Israel into a light unto all nations.
Let's think on that with this.
The Lord is my shepherd, I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows, beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul, she rights my wrongs. She leads me in a path of good things and fills my heart with song. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm in her hand. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. Glory be to our Mother and Daughter and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.
We come up to time to fill the fourth cup, the cup of the covenant. And we will open the door. And as we do that, we will sing Eliyahu Hanavi.
Elijah the prophet, Elijah of Tishbeh, Elijah of Gilad. Soon in our days, may he come to us with the Messiah, son of David or daughter of Ruth. Miriam the prophet, with power and song in her hand. May she dance with us to increase song in the world. May she dance with us to repair the world. Soon in our days, may she lead us to the waters of redemption.
After the Israel-Hamas war started, I reached out to Michael Hunter Oakes to ask if I could play his song, a healing song, Refuah Shlema, at the end of our episodes at Peace with Penny. He graciously consented. I find it very soothing, and I hope it will bring you a bit of peace.
So fragile, like a sparrow against the wind, like the world is on your shoulders, like a stranger in your skin. Healing of the body and a healing of the heart, healing of the spirit and the broken parts, healing of the body, grant us healing of the soul, healing of the spirit, may we soon be whole. Refuah, 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 shlema, refuah. Refuah,
We're here to the cup of the covenant. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, source of being, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. So we have the statement, next year in Jerusalem is a city of peace. We have a song, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. This song was a very popular song in Israel. You'll have a version that was done by my late wife and me to teach this song to others to go through.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Sayakun as-salamu kariban, Sayakun as-salamu kariban, Sayakun as-salamu kariban, Alakul el alam. Soon there will be peace within us, soon there will be peace among us, soon there will be peace around us, peace for us all. Salam aleinu ve'ala kol ha'olam, salam, salam. Shalom aleina wa'ala kol alalam, shalom, shalom. Peace, let there be peace in the world. Shalom, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Sayakun as-salamu kariban. Soon there will be peace among us, peace for us all. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Sayakun as-salamu kariban. Soon there will be peace among us, peace for us all. Salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, salam, salam. Shalom aleinu wa'ala kol ha'olam, shalom, shalom. Peace, let there be peace in the world. Shalom, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Sayakun as-salamu kariban. Soon there will be peace among us, peace for us all. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Sayakun as-salamu kariban. Soon there will be peace among us, peace for us all.
Our final commentary from Rebecca Silfan, who one of the major forces in pushing us forward and doing all of this. Rebecca.
I want to say thank you for coming together through all that the Israelis and the Palestinians have faced. Peace building, if it works the best, is not merely about painful compromise. It's about striving together on a larger collective challenge powerful enough to overcome the traumas of the past and begin a new history. Jewish and Palestinian persistence, rootedness in the land, and strong sense of collective challenge seem to call for finding the right challenge to embark upon. Both peoples have tremendous potential. And I would like you to think about how we can support one another in our challenges over the next year, not only as members of our peoples, but as individual people. Next year, in Shared Jerusalem, may our goals be realized. Praise be to God, creator of the universe, who supports us through our struggles.
We will end with We Shall Overcome. This is actually a guitar that is the same as Pete Seeger's guitar. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Whole wide world around, the whole wide world around, the whole wide world around, the whole wide world around, someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I know that I do believe we shall overcome someday. We must overcome. We must overcome. We must overcome. We must overcome today. Oh, we can survive. No other way. We must overcome today.
That was quite the event. I want to thank you all for coming again. And I want to thank you all for reading through this. I hope that this was thought-provoking. I hope that this was interesting. I hope that this sparked ideas about how you can connect with your communities all about peace, with new ideas about what peace might entail. So I would like you to take a moment, sit there, think, reflect, and unity is strength.
Thank you all. This order of our Passover Seder is complete in accordance with all the rules and laws. As we were worthy to hold this Seder, so may we merit to hold other Seders.
Amen.